I call the regular meeting of the Pennington County Commission order. Want to welcome everybody here. Looks like we're well protected here in the back row also. Hopefully you don't take any one of us with you when you leave, so.
Helene's here. We
just-
need extra protection.
Just point out, if you have cell phones, or just ask you to silence those and, or any other electronic devices. For those of you that are here on other matters, we do have speaker request forms in the back. You can fill those out and bring those up to Holly Hennies, would be sitting on your right. And I will call on Commissioner LaCroix to lead us in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. Next item is to review and approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner LaCroix and a second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve the agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, I'll call on Sheriff Tome. Come forward for the executive proclamation for the Pennington County Corrections Week, May 2nd through the 8th. What an entourage you travel with.
Well, good morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. I appreciate the commission taking a couple minutes to recognize our correctional staff since it is Corrections Week. Have Rob Yantis here as the jail commander, and then Joe Gutierrez as the JSC commander, and Chief Deputy Brian Miller, who oversees both those. And then we have a number of correction staff we're going to introduce and then read the proclamation. But again, thank you for a few minutes to recognize them and for the work they do in our community.
Good morning, Joe Gutierrez, Commander, Juvenile Services Center. This month marks my 10th-year anniversary, so I'm happy to be a part of it. I'd like to introduce our staff. They can come one by one, tell their name and how long they've been with the Sheriff's Office.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe.
Hey guys, Kelly Brown. I've been with JSC for 18 years.
Jason Sivon, been with JSC for 5 years.
Nicholas Wright. I've been with JC for 4 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Rob Yantis. I'm the commander at the jail, and I've been there for 13 years, and I'm going to have these folks introduce themselves as well.
I'm Anna Bingham. I've been with the jail for 5.5 years now.
I'm Chris Daniel. I've been with the jail for 8 years.
I'm Jerome Morris. I've been with the jail for 20 years.
Wow. Thank you.
Whereas May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 will be celebrated across the United States as National Corrections Week. And whereas the corrections profession is one of the most challenging professions one can pursue, it is also one of the most noble. Corrections staff help keep our citizens and our communities safe, not simply by securing jails and juvenile detention facilities and the offenders confined therein. Correctional employees serve admirably throughout the Pennington County Jail and Juvenile Services Center as custody officers, counselors, teachers, chaplains, healthcare professionals, support staff, supervisors, and commanders. They are among the most capable, committed, patient, and persistent public servants in our nation. And whereas few truly understand the difficulties and challenges these corrections professionals face daily, often at personal risk. They are given those who have engaged in dangerous and addictive behaviors, along with the responsibility to reform and rehabilitate. They are given society's illiterate and unskilled, and the task to educate. They are given those who lack medical care or who are in poor health and must help make them well. They are given the mentally ill and the responsibility to diagnose, treat, and protect. Correction staff are in a position to offer offenders a better example and a new path. These staff do so with limited resources, and often with little awareness or acknowledgement from those outside the field of corrections. Yet correctional employees continue to rise to the challenge time and again. And whereas it is appropriate we honor the correction staff in our Pennington County correctional facilities for their invaluable contribution to our society. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, County of Pennington, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd through May 8th as Pennington County Corrections Week, and encourage the citizens of Pennington County to share in acknowledging the outstanding job the Pennington County Corrections staff perform on a daily basis in serving the entire community. Dated this 4th day of May, 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner LaCroix, second by Commissioner Lassiter, to proclaim May 2nd through the 8th as Pennington County Corrections Week. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. It's with pleasure that I sign this on behalf of the Board of Commissioners. Appreciate all that you do. And as was just stated in this proclamation, I don't think most people recognize all the services that you provide in your job. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much for being here. Any comments by the commission?
Just thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Of the, we got 66 counties in Pennington County, and ours is the best by far, and we got the
There you
best
go.
sheriff's department and staff. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item I have is the Executive Proclamation for Public Service Recognition Week, May 2nd through the 8th. I'm going to ask Commissioner Ross Connect to read this proclamation.
Executive Proclamation, Pennington County, South Dakota, Public Service Recognition Week, May 2nd through the 8th, 2021. Whereas each year since 1985, the U.S. Congress delegates the first week of May as Public Service Recognition Week, time set aside to honor public employees and educate the public about the many ways workers make their life better for all Americans. And whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, and county and city levels, these ensuing champions do the work that keeps our nation working. And whereas the men and women who work for our government tackle some of the most important challenges and opportunities facing our country. And whereas public employees take not only jobs but oaths. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. And whereas the Pennington County Board of Commissioners is extremely proud of the dedication shown by its employees day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. The board chooses to honor all county employees who exemplify the significance and valuable contributions public servants make to the quality of life in our county. And now, therefore, we, the Pennington County Board of Commissioners of Pennington County, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of the government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. Join us this week and throughout the year in showing them respect and appreciation they seldom receive, yet richly deserve. Sign this 4th day of May, 2021 at Pennington County, South Dakota, Pennington County Board of Commissioners. Gary Drews, Chair, Ron Roskin, Vice Chair, Deb Hadcock, Lloyd LaCroix, and Travis Lassiter.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross Connect. Do we have people here representing public employees? Come on forward, please. Identify yourself if you would, please.
Yeah, Matthew Bunkers. I work for the National Weather Service, which is part of the federal government.
Super. Anyone else? We thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to do this. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to encourage the people from the county to recognize the work that's being done throughout the year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, it'd be our pleasure on behalf of the entire commission. Each of the commissioners will be signing this proclamation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. So, is there a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
I got a motion and a second from Ross Connect, second from Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Thank you.
I think me and Lassiter have the same tone.
That could be.
Just
Or at the
kidding.
same time, one of the two.
I got the left hearing aid turned up a little higher maybe today.
You're good.
Okay, consent calendar. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of April 20th, 2021. Number 8 is to authorize the chair's signature for the order of organization and incorporation for the Valley Heights Estate Sanitary District with the following legal description. All of Valley Heights Estate subdivision located in Section 36, T2N, R8E, and Sections 1 and 12 in T1N, R8E, Black Hills Meridian, Pennington County, South Dakota. Number 9 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle by the Four River Shrine Club. Number 10 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle by the Western South Dakota Catholic Foundation. Number 11 is to reschedule the May 7th budget work session to Wednesday, June 2nd, starting at 8:30 a.m. Number 12 is the approval to apply for the following grants of the Firehouse Subs Foundation, Farm Credit Services of America, and Golden West as submitted by the Fire Administrator. And finally, number 13 is to declare metal detector asset number 003723 as surplus property for the purpose of destruction or disposal.
Are there any members of the public that wish to have any item on the consent calendar pulled and removed for discussion? Seeing none, are there any members of the commission who wish to have any item removed from the consent calendar? Seeing none, I would take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion from Commissioner Ross Connect,
Second.
second from Commissioner LaCroix. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Regular agenda items. Items from the Fire Administration. Jerome Harvey. Morning, Jerome.
Morning, Commissioners. Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Administrator. Happy International Firefighters Day, and it is 60 shopping days left until the 4th of July, so. There's your factoid for the day.
Man, you're really wanting to start something, aren't you?
Commissioner LaCroix, do you remember what I said about fireworks a couple years ago? So, remember about Mars? Yeah, so. All right, anyway, so you did request a briefing on fireworks, so we did assemble hopefully a very thorough briefing for you. We have several members from different disciplines to help you understand what's going on with fireworks. In your briefing packet, we gave you the overview that we work from, and this information all goes on to a central web page. It's available to the public, and we keep that updated throughout the year. And as far as the 2021 information, we're still short some of that, but we will be beginning the updating of that next week. But specifically, just briefly on our part here before we switch over, a couple things to think about is the different fireworks periods that there are, the times that they're able to be sold, depending on the license that you buy. South Dakota is 31st in the nation according to the Tax Foundation as far as retail sales licenses. And you can sell fireworks depending on what license you buy as early as May 1st, and you can sell them through August 31st, depending on the license that's under state statute. The two fireworks discharge periods that the public is allowed to discharge is from June 27th through the Sunday following the 4th of July. So this year, it's June 27th through July 5th. The only time that the county can regulate the discharge of fireworks is when the Grassland fire danger rating reaches the extreme level from June 20th through July 2nd. From July 3rd through July 11th of this year, the counties, the 66 counties in South Dakota have no authority to regulate the fireworks. You also have authority to regulate the discharge of fireworks from the public between December 28th through January 1st, again by state statute. A couple other things for you before we go on as far as talking about the Grassland fire danger rating. I thought it was very interesting, looked this up, and I found some numbers for you. According to the American Pyrotechnics Association, in 2018, there's $1.3 billion worth of fireworks sold in the United States. 945 million of those were consumer-grade fireworks. In 2014, the last year I could find numbers for, South Dakota sold across the state, there was over $11 million of the fireworks sold across 39 of the counties that was taxable. Again, everything that, according to the state statute, according to our ordinance and resolutions, everything ties back to the Grassland fire danger rating. And people always ask us to look into the magic ball and tell us what the Grassland fire danger rating is. So what we've done here in our briefing is we're going to bring up Mr. Matt Bunkers. Matt, if you could come on up, please. And he's going to give you a thorough briefing looking into the glass ball from now through July 11th of this year.
Very good.
Good morning, Commissioners. How much time do I have? Because I know meteorologists can be long-winded. I don't want to go over your limit here.
Well, we're not going to limit you.
All right. Do you have the packet printout with you?
We do.
If you have questions.
We do.
Okay. Sounds good. As I said earlier, I work with the National Weather Service. I'm the Science and Operations Officer there, and I deal with training, research, and operational development. So my wife was wondering what I was doing today, and I said, well, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news because we're going to be talking about some drought conditions that we have. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the Grassland Fire Danger product that we issue. It covers the grasslands of South Dakota, hence it does not cover the Black Hills. That's covered by the National Fire Danger Rating System. And there are 5 categories, and I'll just go over that here. First of all, before I do that, we issue this product daily throughout the rest of the year now until about November 1st. So when you get up in the morning, it's issued by 4 or 5 a.m. and it's valid for the next 2 days. So you can see what the outlook is for today and tomorrow. And there's a website in your package that will go to that. So here's an example of the image. It was actually from yesterday. We have 5 categories. As you can see in the image, it's white over the Black Hills because that's not a grassland area and we do not provide a grassland fire danger for that. And again, it goes from low all the way up to extreme. And if you go to the website, you'll see both this image for the current day and then the image for the next day. And there will be a text product describing the humidity, the temperature, the winds that go into that. So there is a mathematical formula that's used to calculate the grassland fire danger. What's important to know, it takes into account temperature, humidity, wind, and curing data, or the status of the grassland, the fuels, and how dry are they. Wind speed is probably the biggest thing. So for example, you can have a day that's maybe 30% humidity. It's low, but it's not that low. But if the wind is really strong, the grassland will really shoot up. Conversely, if the wind is moderate, say 20 miles an hour, which isn't much around here, but it's really dry, the grassland fire danger also will increase. So the humidity or the wind, both, if they're extreme, they can really drive the grassland fire danger up. The curing data is the big challenge. So here's just a picture that shows an example of some cured grasses near the school mines, courtesy of Darren Clable, the state fire meteorologist. So that's the big input. And so how do we get that? We use a satellite-based product that essentially measures greenness. Just as your TV could look at different channels, the satellite can look at different channels and come up with a vegetative greenness. This image might not make a whole lot of sense to you, so what I'm going to show you is, you see this was valid as of last week. Now if we look at the image from 1 year ago, the same week, it's notably greener. So that's the first point I want to make. It was greener last year at this time than it is right now. Just go back again, a lot more yellows there, and then if we go to the current, a little bit greener. Of course, the badlands are always going to show up as dry because they're basically a lot of just non-vegetative rock out there. And of course, the Black Hills do show up in this product because it's just a satellite-based product detecting the surface. Now, here is the week of July 4th last year, and you'll note that it's notably greener than it was, at the back in this time in early May last year, which makes sense because we typically green up as we go through May and June into early July. Now, these are products that are on the internet that are hard to access. And so what we've done locally at our office is we've developed what we call a greenness product. We're taking the satellite-based product and calibrating it. And so if you look at this, and the other products that I just showed you are updated once a week. This is updated every day. And here's a direct link that will take you to that. And it's color-coded in a sense so that greenness kind of stands out. The driest part of our area is in northwestern South Dakota, and that makes perfect sense when you look at the Drought Monitor. You can see it is a little bit greener around the Black Hills, even into the central and southern Black Hills. Also, south central South Dakota, just pointing out that's where there was more snow and precipitation this past winter. And then we recently had some heavier rain and especially snowfall events in parts of the central and southern Black Hills. So this is something you could view every day and just see how the changes are occurring. And that is input that we do use to the Grassland product. So where are we at with drought? This was just updated last week. Again, the Drought Monitor is updated once a week, not every day, and it's updated on Thursdays. That's when it's released, and it shows a lot of drought across our area, again, highlighting northwestern South Dakota. But notice all this drought in the southwestern U.S., some of it is at D4, which is the highest category considered to be exceptional drought. I'll mention more about that in just a little bit. If we zoom in on South Dakota here, again, we can see most of the state is in drought conditions. The yellow would be abnormally dry. The change, so if we look at the map a week before this, parts of the Black Hills were actually in the D1 category, so there has been some slight improvement there, but still they're in very dry conditions. So how much precipitation have we had in the Rapid City area since October 1st, which is the water year? So we have October 1st on the left, right now is on the right. Just for way of reference, the wettest year is the blue line. That's a little over 12 inches from October 1st to this date, which was back in 85 to 86. Normal is the brown line. Here we are right now at 2021, and here's the driest year. So we're a few inches below the normal value, halfway between normal and the driest year for a current water year, which again started October 1st. So again, this just reiterates where we're at in Rapid City. So a deficit actually since the beginning of 2020 in Rapid City of 4.65 inches. All right, so I talked about the drought in the southwest U.S. There was actually a study released in a Journal of the American Meteorological Society last year that looked specifically at Great Plains drought, and they focused on the conditions upstream. And when it's really dry in the southwestern United States in the spring, that leads to drought based on their study in the Great Plains in the summer. And that's because when we get the flow of air from the southwest, it's coming from an area that's really dry, and we don't have a lot of moisture to work with. So there's a study that suggests, based on the current conditions, that we would have a dry year. Another thing to look at is La Nina. La Nina is a situation where we have colder than normal waters in the central and eastern Pacific. We just came out of that. So if you look at all the years where we had La Nina and then we go into the summer, this is a composite of that, and it shows generally dry through much of the central U.S. And again, this is an average of 15 or so years. So there's a lot of variability in that, but the odds are definitely tilted in favor of being drier this May to June as we come out of this La Nina. So not surprisingly, the drought outlook calls for conditions to persist, which would be in the brown here, or develop, which would be just outside of our area. So there's no sign necessarily that the drought is going to get any better. And if we look at the 3-month temperature outlook, May through July, that's odds favor above average temperatures. Precipitation favors below average over that same period. And then another thing that we've done at our office since 2005, each year we've been updating this, we look at a large-scale rainfall across the Black Hills area. This isn't just Rapid City. It's northeastern Wyoming, western South Dakota, and the Black Hills. And so we want to kind of get a large-scale sense of the precipitation patterns. And what this shows is a fairly persistent 5 to 10 year periods alternating dry and wetness. Obviously, the 30s show up really well as the driest period. We see the 50s dry, the 70s a little bit, the 80s, and the 2000s, especially early on. We got that big blizzard on May 1st and 2nd, 2008, if you remember, if you were here, and that basically brought the end of that. But recently, we've been in overall a wet pattern. There have been a few dry years mixed in there, but we believe if the past is any guide to the future, we may be headed into another one of these 5 to 10 year dry periods. So what do the Black Hills look like in terms of their fuels? There's something called the energy release component, which is essentially a measure of how much combustibility the fuels might have. And the 100th percentile would be having the most energy. And the Baker Park Remote Automated Weather Station, west of Rockerville, is between 80 and 90%. So it's pretty high up there. Mount Rushmore is between the 70th and 80% percentile. So the fuels, there's 100,000 hour fuels. That essentially means these are big dead fuels, and they're very dry in the Black Hills, and there's no reason why they're going to become moist unless we have a really wet period. But they've dried out because of the drought. So in terms of the grassland, then east of Pennington County, peak green up is typically mid-June to early July. Last year it was actually June 1st, however, because of the drier conditions that developed. Our current forecast drought conditions may suggest earlier peak green up this year again, possibly in mid-June. So if the fuels become green and remain green, the grassland fire danger typically is going to be low to moderate, because if you have green fuels, it doesn't matter if it's really windy or the humidity's low, it's not going to burn. But if the fuels become really dry, just a day with modest humidity but really windy conditions, or modest winds but really dry, can lead to high, very high, possibly even extreme fire danger. So that's something to note. So to summarize, we're in drought, and life is about bets. And if I were to bet on this, I would bet that the drought would persist. We also think the grasses may cure earlier this year than they have in past years. And the fuels, again, in Black Hills are very dry, and they'll likely remain dry. We may be trending drier in the long term as well. So that's the bad news. The good news is that we're in the month of May now, and we typically see around 4 inches of rain or precipitation here in Rapid City. So that's the good news. Hopefully we can alleviate some of the dry conditions with that and green up some of the fuels. The other good news is that long-range forecast of a few months is notoriously very difficult. So although we may be betting on drought right now, it's not to say we couldn't get in a wet pattern and things could really change. But that's where I would put my chips toward, is to the drier conditions. And that's the end of my briefing.
Matt, appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ross Connect.
relative to the Black Hills Fields in Baker Park, evidently there's a station there at Baker Park.
Yes, there's a remote automated weather station, which is kind of a fire weather type of station.
So what does the 100 to 1,000 hour fuels, what are you actually saying there?
They're tied to the size of the fuels, and Jerome has a better knowledge of this than I do, so if you want to speak up on that.
100 hours about that size, DBI, 1,000 hours is trees like that size.
Because I thought Baker Park was mostly open pasture.
Yeah, it would take they would actually take a reading from all those different field types in that area to get that actual general characteristics as far as the 100 and 1,000 hour fuels. Your 1 hour, 10 hour fuels, all grasses, brush, that kind of stuff.
So located roughly 3 miles from Baker Park, you got the Sheridan Lake campground, which 128 sites there. And it's my understanding, even if there's a severe drought, camp or fire is not permitted in the prairie. It's my understanding that the Forest Service in a campground and those fire rings, they're not subject to any type of a fire ban. And I just, a lot of people say, well, how can they do that? And we can't do it. But I just want it to be known that when it's in a federal campground and there's fire rings, they can burn any time of the year, any time of the day.
Anything that we're talking about today is the area that is north of I-90 east of Highway 79, outside the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection boundary. Anything that's in federal ground, like at Sheridan Lake, is responsibility of the Black Hills National Forest and South Dakota Wildland Fire. We don't have no authority in that area to do that. And historically, campgrounds and permitted rings that are maintained and taken care of are not historically a fire problem.
I just think that when it's just mantled to the general public, that we need to identify those two areas are totally separate from each other. Sometimes they get intermixed, and
hopefully we'll clear some of it up here today. Any other questions for Matt?
Any other questions for Matt?
Matt.
Matt, thank you very much. So no, you're not going to judge June 27th or June 20th through July 2nd for us at all, as far as Grassland fire danger rating?
I'll bet on the lower.
Okay, all right.
Tell me you got a gentleman sneaking up.
Excuse me.
That's all right.
Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. I thought it was fairly tall, but not quite. I do have a question just for the general public and for our fire administrator. I know you'd mentioned it earlier, but because the statutes that affect our resolution and what authority the commission has, the resolutions, if the prohibition is imposed when it reaches extreme, and then it's suspended when it reaches very high, or below very high.
Below very high.
So, again, could you let us know how often that fire danger index comes out, and then how long it's good for, because that affects the county's authority or jurisdiction to prohibit fireworks.
So if we're talking.
Matt, I need you to come back up. Thank you.
When we're talking about this map right here, this is updated every day around 4 or 5 a.m. And not only, so it's updated for the current day, but then another one is put out for the following day. So every day it's updated. You can go to this link, this website right here. And in the morning when you get up, as long as you're not getting up too early, you'll see the Grassland Fire Danger Outlook for today and tomorrow. And I assume then that's what, each day it's consulted for burn ban restrictions. Would that be correct?
Right.
And that was my biggest question is.
They come to the mic for us.
That was my biggest question is how often that can change, because that affects what Jerome has to do with his public announcement. Today, fireworks are prohibited. Tomorrow, you can shoot them off. The next day, they're prohibited. You know, it could vacillate like that depending on a major event, a lot of rain or a blizzard or something goofy that might happen, but it's not unrealistic. So I want Jerome to have that clear direction as to when he does those public service announcements so people know I can't shoot off today, but I can tomorrow, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
And if I may clarify.
Absolutely, Matt.
He's absolutely correct. So this, for example, shows low to moderate in western South Dakota on this day. The very next day, it could be very high to extreme if the fuels were cured and it's going to be windy and really dry. And the next day, there's no winds, it's maybe raining a bit, it'd be low. So it can vary quite a bit from day to day.
So I have a question, Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
So it seems like if it's humid, or you said it helps cure it and makes it more dry?
Well, if it's humid, fire has less chance to ignite and carry. So
Right.
higher humidity, low wind speeds result in a low grassland, a lower grassland.
Right.
If it's really dry, the humidity is low, or the winds especially are getting up above 25 miles an hour, then the grassland fire danger goes up.
Okay, I misunderstood your humidity.
Oh, all right, apologize for that.
I was like, okay, if it's humid out, it seems like it would make it less. So you're
Correct.
right, it's less.
Any further questions of Matt?
Thank you, sir.
Bring Jerome back.
Appreciate you, Matt. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda is, since we're talking about the challenges of getting information out to the public, especially with the regulations and the state statutes, so we asked one of our meteorologists that's with the local media to come up and address you, Mr. Brant Beckman.
Welcome, Brant.
Nice
Good morning.
tie.
Morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's got a Smoky Bear tie.
Yes, $12.
Nice.
So that's part of the, I'm glad that that's the first thing that was brought to your attention, because our job is getting up each morning and just wanted to show this for example. We have no script. There is no script for meteorologists on broadcast when you go on TV, because by the time you've written something up, it is no longer valid. You have to change, especially up here. So what I wanted to point out was the fact that red flag warnings have been a distinct challenge, at least since I've gotten here, but I think Matthew Bunkers will tell you that this is a distinct challenge about getting that message across to the general public. I've been in four major hurricanes. I've been in countless tornadoes. I did a lot of research in these areas in the aftermath of these events, and I've only been to a couple grass fires up in Perkins County and whatnot, and I can tell you that those can be by far more devastating, if only for the fact that a person can't set off a mile-wide tornado. You think about the damage that the grass fire can do. It's not only can the breadth of it be larger, but the path and how fast it can go can sometimes rival that. So when we're talking about communicating fire danger to the public, you're talking about something that is caused by 90% human cause, according to Darren Clavel, the state fire meteorologist. It can be sometimes over that, especially if you have fireworks involved. So if you, once again, you talk to some of these ranchers up in Perkins County, and they've lost generations of work in a single day. It's just as devastating. Tornadoes just as devastating as a wildfire in these areas. And in some cases, at least in a tornado, you can actually pick up some of the pieces of your home. If you lose your home, you lose everything in a fire. So when you're talking about grasslands burning, that's also part of the economy. These ranchers use this land. That's part of their income. So a tornado, in some ways, going across someone's land is less destructive than a grass fire will be. So how do you communicate this to a public when you have tornado sirens, you have the movie Twister, you have the fanfare of a tornado, and you don't really have a movie Twister for wildfires or grass fires? You know, it just doesn't have the flair to it. So, and I know I can speak for David Stradling, meteorologist up across the street and whatnot. I mean, we're all dedicated to trying to get this message across. I mean, you look at the Schroeder fire. It's a perfect example where you had people who were displaced for a week, or in some cases a little longer than that, before they're able to return to their homes. And they are watching a slow-moving disaster on TV through communication. And I just want to point out that the communication between the Pennington County Fire and the media was world-class in being able to get this communication out quickly and effectively. We didn't have anyone that was coming to us saying, I'm not getting enough information about my home. They knew exactly what was going on. The communication was clear. And when stuff like this happens, if you want to have less people coming to the table and saying, my gosh, you know, we were unprepared. No one had that with that Schroeder fire, just excellent cooperation. We would really like that to continue for Pennington County, particularly as we get to the 4th of July with fireworks and making sure that we can be a megaphone for whatever the National Weather Service puts out. We have great cooperation with the National Weather Service, and we want to be able to be the megaphone for that language, but we are only going to about the language that you allow us to, and the language that Jerome Harvey puts out, or the Rapid City Fire Department, or the Pennington County Sheriff's Office. That is our job. It is our public service to do that. Yes, there are other components to the TV magic and all that, but really as meteorologists, we are truly scientists. We want to serve the public. We want to be able to communicate this properly. So when there are red flag warnings, give us the language, what you all are concerned about, what you would like for us to communicate, and we will do that. We want to be your megaphone for what's going on. We have the social media platforms, we have Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that wonderful jazz to communicate that. And we want to be able to do that. I know with Rapid Broadcasting Company, I've been allowed to, in the last 6 months, really get into serving the rural communities as well. We're going out towards Wall. We're going out towards, we're going all the way out towards Kadoka in some cases. We're going up to Perkins County. We want to understand what communication helps, how it gets there, and we're very much into the research of how to get this information out there. So whatever information you all are putting out as far as the county is concerned, you know, Jerome and I talk about this a lot, about how to make this a seamless connection of having the same message. If you have the same message, it transfers a lot easier than if you're throwing out different things, you know, high fire danger, exceptional, you know, these words mean something. That D3, D2, you have the LFP program. It's just been initiated for those extreme drought conditions. That drought monitor matters because of federal dollars that are being put into it. You know, you have these programs that are triggered based upon these maps. So having that communication seamless is part of our mission right now, is making sure that we're on the same page with not only Pennington County, obviously, but the areas outside the Black Hills. I had some other points, I think, but if you guys had any questions, I'd
Brand,
love to.
I'd just like to point out that, you know, it wasn't long after the Schroeder fire that one morning I get up and I'm watching you, and you're talking about fireworks the night before being set off. And I don't think we had experienced much moisture between the time of the Schroeder fire and the time that you pointed that out. And so we do appreciate what you and the other meteorologists broadcasting are, the information that you're providing and trying to give to the public. Now, if we could just get them all to heed those warnings, would be another thing, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Questions of Brandt?
Here.
Commissioner Heidkock.
Sir, I would keep working with Jerome Harvey and maybe put him on the TV once in a while, and sometimes firemen or some of our volunteer fire departments or even our career firemen, put them on there. That message goes a little bit clearer when you have a first responder that actually has to fight those fires and can tell you some of those dangers that people are creating, when they could see it face to face from firemen or a first responder that has to deal with those emergencies. So I think that would probably help, instead of just without being a meteorologist.
Great.
So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Commissioner Hadcock is part of the Fire Service Board too, so thank you, Commissioner Hadcock.
But call Jerome.
Other questions of Brent? Thank you, Brent. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Brent.
Back to Jerome.
Okay, just remember, we're talking about the area that's outside the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection Boundary, and hopefully starting to see some of the challenges that we deal with as far as getting the word out and as far as what the state statute allows the county to do. So one of the programs that's been on here for a while is under the direction of Director Kevin Carley from our dispatch center, and he can talk to you on the notes that you have. It's under the green section because we haven't always firmed that up with him. But if Director Carley could come up, he can talk to you about some of the things that they do and some of the changes that they make inside the dispatch to help deal with this issue.
Morning, Kevin.
Good morning. I'm going to put this down so I don't poke an eye out or anything.
One on this side too, Kevin.
Morning, Kevin.
Either that or you got to grow up, Kevin.
Yeah, this is as tall as I'm going to get. Good morning, Kevin Carley, Director, Pennington County 911. I'll give you an overview of some of the challenges that we face during the fireworks season and some of the actions we take to try to mitigate those challenges. We have 3 times during the year where we don't allow any of our dispatchers to take vacation or take days off because of the high volume of calls, and the 4th of July holiday period is one of those times where we call it a blackout time, where they can't request any extra time off, and we don't have anyone on days off. We typically get our calls into the center in a couple of different ways. On the business lines, we get a lot of questions, and just so you know, the main police department line, 394-4131, and the main sheriff's office line, 394-2151, actually ring into the dispatch center. And we get a lot of calls on those 2 lines during this period of time about what the rules and regulations are for setting fireworks off and using fireworks. And we also get a lot of calls on those 2 lines about any events in the area, any firework displays, any organized fireworks displays that are being set off in the area. And then the other way we get those calls is on the 911 line, is where we get complaints about fireworks, noise complaints about fireworks, and we get a high number of increase of gunshot calls during this period of time, people mistaking fireworks for gunshots. So what we do to mitigate the calls we get on the business lines is, back in 2017, we added to our auto attendant an option specifically for fireworks. So when the public pushed that option, they got a rundown and a quick overview from one of our staff members, a pre-recorded, of what the basic laws were for fireworks, and also a basic overview of what the events were, the organized events in the area. Now, we have since transitioned that to 211, so when they push that option on, the auto attendant automatically takes them to 211, and 211 answers those questions for them. As far as handling the calls go, again, we get a high increase of 911 calls during that time. And we work with our user agencies in advance. Typically, law enforcement has some kind of a plan up front. We work with them to determine how those calls are going to be handled. One of the things that we ran into is that because of the high number of fireworks complaints that we get, it plugs up the dispatcher's pending screen. The calls that are pending that are waiting to be dispatched, it plugs that up, and that's all they can see. So back in 2018, we created a special filter that takes those calls off their pending screen, moves them to another spot where they can still see them. Law enforcement can still see them from their MDTs, but it gets them off of that screen because there gets to be such a high volume that it becomes more than what law enforcement has resources for. The other thing we do is we suspend automatic aid for grass fires and wildland fires during this time. What automatic aid is if we have a fire call in the area, when we page it to the fire department, it automatically sends the same page to the surrounding fire departments. And we have that set up at the request of county fire so that surrounding departments are aware of the fire and they can choose to respond if they want based on the circumstances. But during this period of time, we suspend that automatic aid for grass fires and wildland fires so that fire departments can stay in their own areas, use their own resources. They still have the option of responding to those other fires, depending on what the circumstances are. But that's a choice they make. We don't automatically page them to fires in neighboring jurisdictions. And that's pretty much the steps that we take. When I got there in 2016, we really weren't taking any special steps to try to offset that, and those are the things that we've done over the years. And it gets to the point now to where it's manageable for us in the center as long as we have the staff to deal with it. You have any questions?
Questions of Kevin? Thank you, Kevin.
Thank
you.
So as we talked earlier, the state in 2014, and we're working on getting the updated numbers, had over $11 million of taxable fireworks sold in South Dakota. That's sold through fireworks stands. So who manages those? Who inspects those fireworks stands? We get that questions all the time. So we asked our West River Deputy Fire Marshal, Marshal Hartman, to come on up and give us a briefing on as far as fireworks stands and some of the inspections that go on with the state.
Welcome, Damon.
Damon Hartman, Deputy State Fire Marshal for the western third of the state. Basically, we get a full packet from the State Fire Marshal's office that shows all the fireworks licenses that are issued and everything that falls within my district, western third of the state. I get a list of all those fireworks stands. I go out and inspect every one of those. Last year was an exception because I was stuck on top of George Washington's head for the fireworks. So last year, our area did not get any inspections. The previous years, they were all inspected. And this year, barring no fireworks at Mount Rushmore, I'll be out inspecting all those fireworks stands. And of course, all those stands that are allowed are outside of the Black Hills Fire District. So, any questions?
Any questions of Damon? Thank you, Damon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Damon.
Thank
you. Okay, now we can start talking about some of our state statutes, county ordinances. We'll have Mr. Jay Alderman from the Attorney's Office come on up and give you a briefing on state statutes.
Thank you, Jay Alderman with State's Attorney's Office. So before you today, you have a couple things, and we'll get to the Prohibition on Fireworks resolution. That's the first one to take up. Just a little background. In 2018 and 2019, there were some statutes that were repealed in Pierre, and that affected our old standing resolution, so we needed to update it. A primary issue was the removal of a penalty provision that this legislative session we were able to get put back in to the statute, giving the county authority to have a penalty provision in there for a violation of the resolution. So that's back in there. The other one that was repealed and was part of our old resolution was there was a provision on the use of fireworks, pyrotechnics, explosives to protect sunflower crops from depredating birds. And that was removed. And best I know or can guess is there's other means today that don't require fireworks or explosives to engage with that, from propane horns and other uses. So we also needed to remove that because that provision no longer exists, authorizing the county to regulate that. So the resolution in front of you is very basic and straightforward. There's one statute, 343719, that specifically authorizes counties by resolution to prohibit fireworks when the fire danger index reaches the extreme category. From a time period, and most important for us, is the counties only have that authority from essentially June 20th through July 2nd. And June 20th is kind of interesting because you can't actually shoot fireworks off legally on June 20th anyway. You can't start shooting them off until the 27th. But I think that was the legislature's way to give a lead-in time to alert the public that as of June 20th, this resolution could go into effect if we had the extreme category in the fire index. And then the county's resolution only applies or is only effective from that time frame through July 2nd. A lot of people wonder, well, what about July 3rd, 4th, etc.? The county's jurisdiction ends on July 2nd. It doesn't matter what the fire danger index is July 3rd, and in this case, the Sunday following the 4th, which is the 11th. That's out of the county's hands. So this resolution would take effect June 20th if it's passed today. It would be in effect and prohibit fireworks usage from June 20th, or really June 27th through July 2nd. At any time during that time frame, if the fire index falls below the very high, then it's suspended, meaning this resolution is automatically by law of no effect. And that's why Jerome has to monitor that fire danger index to be able to alert the public when this resolution is effective, when it's not effective. If during that time frame it bumps back up to the extreme category, once again it's effective. So it's a bit of Jerome's busy that time of year, trying to follow the fire danger index and trying to alert the public with the assistance of our news media and otherwise, so the public is aware that they could be in violation on a certain day and they're perfectly fine on another day. So that's all this resolution does. Also makes it clear that it's not effective or intended to be effective inside that Black Hills Forest Fire Protection District or grounds that are under the jurisdiction or owned by the federal government or state of South Dakota. Any questions on that?
Any questions?
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock.
for the purpose of protecting sunflower crops from depredating birds, so how about when they have mining and stuff like that? Is there anything that has to do with any of that either, with their explosives and the different stuff they do?
That the county regulates?
Yes.
Not in statute that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I don't know, I know you're contemplating some hard rock mining ordinances in the near future. I don't know if there's some regulations that could take effect in that context, but for purposes of our discussion here today, no.
I was just wondering why that was put in there, and did we look at all areas, I guess was the bottom line. Not that we're doing that in mining, but why the birds and not everything else that would be, in a business of explosive or pyrotechnics.
It was, best I could answer is at the time, and it probably dated back maybe even into the 30s. That was a big deal at that time. Apparently they've found other means to protect sunflower crops and felt it was time to repeal that, so.
I just figured there was a different way besides, like you said, the
Further
purpose of
questions of Jay?
protecting sunflowers.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner LaCroy.
Jay, what's different from this resolution, what we were following prior to this? I mean, didn't we have the same legal ramifications of if the fire danger, or what did we use for consideration before? Because didn't we as a commission have the opportunity to suspend at some other point, but we just maybe didn't have the conditions?
Yeah, this statute that authorizes this resolution has been in effect for quite a while. So our old resolution gave you all the same authority, except in that resolution, we also had provisions in it about the sunflower fields, which we no longer have the authority to regulate. So that had to come out. And in 2018 or 19, I forget which year, the legislature inadvertently repealed the class, at that time it was a class 1 misdemeanor that you relied on as general authority for violations of the resolution. So that resolution that we had had no teeth, frankly. It became unenforceable in that regard. So this resolution doesn't change how you control fireworks. It just gets rid of a provision you no longer have control, sunflower crops. And it adds back in this legislative session, it's a class 2 misdemeanor.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to follow up that this wasn't something new that we just throwing out to the public and trying to make them. I think you guys did a very good job of making public awareness today. I mean, and that's very good, but I just wanted to make sure that public didn't know this wasn't something new. I mean, we've always had it. It's just.
And historically, that resolution that we're updating today came about in 2012. And as some of you might remember, 2012 was, I'm not going to say it's exactly right now, but it was a moment in time where people got very concerned and were scrambling to do what they could to help protect. And so that's when that resolution was adopted. It's been on the books that long, just needs to be updated now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, last but not least, we'll ask the Pennington County Sheriff's Office to come up and discuss their enforcement ability in some of the areas that are allowed to versus banned. Do you want that map? Do you want that map?
Morning again, Sheriff.
If you have it. Cool. Morning again, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. Jerome, thanks for organizing this. I think the information's very useful for everybody. Obviously, the 4th of July is a very busy time of year for us. I mean, the lakes are busy, the campgrounds are busy, there's lots of tourists in the area, so setting fireworks aside, it's just a busy time of year. But like everybody else, we try and staff up, for that time period, like we do for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. And for the Valley specifically is where we have the bulk of our complaints, if you will, and activity related to fireworks. We'll put an additional 7-8 units out just in the valley, working patrol in that area, trying to, keep some semblance of order. And we deal with people that have complaints. Some people suffer from PTSD and the fireworks bothers them. Animals are impacted by it at times. And of course, the litter from the fireworks. Those are the 3 biggest complaints we get in terms of fireworks. And again, predominantly in the Rapid Valley area. Like everybody else talked about, we use social media, our website, and the media to help convey messaging as we go into the 4th of July weekend. We're kind of in a unique situation, particularly in the Valley, and I know Jay spoke to some of the jurisdictional statutory challenges we have. I mean, the legislature's taken it out of the hands of the county. What we do have as a tool is, the city and us can enforce city ordinances within 1 mile of the city limits. And so we've used that as leverage, if you will, to try and regulate some of the activity in the valley in particular. So what we've done is after 11 o'clock, we say you can't shoot off fireworks. If you're reckless, we'll deal with it. And I can say by and large, we get good compliance because if we have enough units out there, we can get compliance. It is very festive in the valley during the 4th of July. There's a lot of people like shooting off fireworks. It's a long-standing tradition in our country. And so we're just in a unique spot out there trying to enforce it. I mean, you can't sell fireworks in the city limits, but there's fireworks stands within the 1 mile jurisdiction selling fireworks. So that just shows you how complicated it gets in terms of us then trying to enforce it. People spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on fireworks in a particular area and they want to shoot them off. And again, it's part of our tradition. So that's a little overview of what we deal with in terms of the sheriff's office, and I'll certainly stand for any questions you may have.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Kevin, relative to the increased presence within the 1 mile radius of Rapid City, including portions of Rapid Valley, citations can be issued after 11, so I'm assuming you're not supposed to be shooting fireworks after 11, but when can you start? Can you start at 7 a.m.?
Yeah, and again, that's just a arbitrary time that we've established. If you wanted to apply the city ordinance, you could cite them any time of the day. We just made a decision to let people shoot off fireworks, but we're going to cut it off at a certain time and trying to, again, keep some semblance of order and trying to meet everybody's needs. But you could use that city ordinance to cite any time of day.
And then the other question would be someone that's reckless or negligent. So how do you find either one of those?
Yeah, if somebody's, launching bottle rockets at somebody else's house or fireworks at somebody else's house or at individuals, then we'll deal with those individually.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Laster.
Follow up with that. Sheriff Tome, just for the public's knowledge, what's a good way to document that so that they know? Because I know some people think if they just call and say, hey, so-and-so was doing this, they assume that something's going to happen.
Yeah, of course, calling into the dispatch center, which you heard Kevin Carley talk about. That's the best mechanism first, is report it there, because then it gets dispatched out to our units. Now, we have a high visibility and presence in the valley during that time. If you see one of our deputies driving by, you can flag them down as well and pass that information on at the time.
I think the point is that we're not out to inhibit the celebration by individuals. We're there to try to provide safety for individuals and personal property.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
That concludes our fireworks briefing. Hopefully we brought you up to date, got you the information that you needed to make any decisions you want to do. Again, it comes down to, as far as enforcement and the fireworks period, it's all set by the state statutes. Is there any other questions I can answer or help the commission
Any
on
other
this?
questions of Jerome?
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
This is the best presentation I think we've had on fireworks since I've been here, with all the different entities and the first responders and the meteorologist. It gets the word out a little bit better when people understand a little bit more, and this is public. So I appreciate everybody that came today. That was pretty awesome presentation, and whoever organized it, great job, because again, this is the best presentation I've seen on fireworks and just the danger of what fire can do and how the different entities all work together to try to make this difference on fire. So thank you to everybody that came today and well organized.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Can I make a motion?
You can.
Move to approve the Pennington County resolution prohibiting the use of fireworks as provided in South Dakota Codified Law 34-37-19.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Roskinek, second by Commissioner Hadcock. Further discussion?
Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I just want to reiterate what Mr. Sadcock said, because, when we first got on this commission, me and Deb had worked continuously with the city and with the staff on the fireworks. It's been a concern for many years. And I totally agree. This has been the best presentation that we've gotten, and more information on the fireworks and getting it out to the public that we're not trying to take their rights away, but we have an obligation of public safety when conditions get to a certain point, and we will step up to the plate when that needs to be done. But, Jerome and Tom and all you, and Jay, I really appreciate your guys' efforts today. I mean, this was probably as Deb said, the best public information to get the word out that we've been involved in a long time. And I think that's the best we can do when we're still going to get the complaints and concerns, but they don't go on deaf ears. They really don't. So thank you, guys.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Laster.
I just want to say thanks for giving a really good presentation for my first time to hear it. You know, I know we've talked about it behind the scenes a little bit because we've had some questions in my district. And for those who are here or going to listen online, I do plan on being in the valley this year. I've talked to Sheriff Tome so I can go out there and kind of get a hand, you know, an eyes on to what's going on, just so you don't think that we're hearing certain things and not acting on them. I'm going to be active out in the valley to see it this year, just so you're aware. So I appreciate that, Jerome.
Thank you,
Further
Commissioners.
discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Ross.
Though my district encompasses most of the Black Hills, I did find this very interesting, and it helped me define the difference between the prairie and the Black Hills.
Yeah, and we'll address this some more. And there is, especially with the people that are moving into the area, there is confusion, you know, between the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection Boundary established in 1941 as compared to the rest of the county and the private lands in the county. And hopefully we can continue through this medium and with the help of the media and our own postings, et cetera, help keep that clear as far as what area is what and who has jurisdiction there.
I'd just like to point out that the Black Hills, you know, the Forest Service has their own law enforcement, and I hope that they're taking the same steps that our sheriff's office is here relative to patrolling the Black Hills from the 4th of July holidays.
Chairman. I have one
Commissioner
more.
Adcock.
So, number one, our group, our fire service board, and our fire service volunteers work well with Land. They always come to our meetings. I mean, there's a great team going on. Just a question, Jerome, in the wilderness areas, kind of, do we need to define some of those areas for people? Because people live by those, and there's different rules and regulations for those wilderness and different areas for fire, isn't there?
All of the, and Council here will help us on this, but the definitions as far as updating of the fireworks ordinance and updating of your burn ban specifically addresses that to help clarify that. And in all of our public releases and on the web page that we maintain, our web page, we try to gather all the public shows that are going on in the entire West River area. Our website gets a lot of hits. The sheriff's office, everybody is in on that. We put all of the information in one, so there's one-stop shopping. And we use the federally released information on no fireworks, et cetera, in those federal areas, not only in the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection Boundary, but on the federal grounds throughout the rest of the county. So we try to make that very clear to them as far as that.
But is it true that if there's a fire that starts there, you have to let it burn? I mean, what is the rules and regs on that?
No, the Black Elk Wilderness has some very specific regulations that the Forest Service can do as far as mobilizing on a wilderness area. That's very well defined. We're involved in the planning on that. Last year, the fire that was in the wilderness area was dealt with very quickly.
Okay.
They did a very nice job on that. So there's nothing saying just let it burn. They have everything's in place as far as working with those regulations.
I didn't think so, but some people had told me otherwise when we went to the 3030 land grab and some other meetings that I went to, but I wanted to make that clarified for people.
Yeah, the Black Elk Wilderness is very unique in the area that's in. It is a different climate at the elevation that it is in, but going back into the 90s when that plan was first put together, the previous administrator was heavily involved in that, and that's been instituted a couple times in my memory.
Is that the only wilderness area in Pennington
That's correct.
County?
That's correct. Everything else we'll either take direct action on or work with our federal or state partners as far as taking action on.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second to the
One more
Prohibition.
question, please.
Commissioner LaCroix.
My question would be to not only Jerome, but Brett. With the way this presentation was today and public safety, PSAs, does the place you work with help out with any PSAs for the public on fire safety and prevention, where we're going to be at with it?
Absolutely. We are encouraged. It is our assigned duty to, if you guys have a PSA to put out, especially on those matters, I will personally make sure that we are working with you to get those out. making sure that people have the correct information, not just the broad brush of what's going on, but the correct information about where you live and what applies to you is important to us. So if you have that, we'd love to work with you on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Brent.
I was just wondering.
Got a motion?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the core of the packet that you received from Holly's office is the core of the packet that we send to the entire media list. And then there's it's all put together there, but it's put attachments and all the different formats that the media needs.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second.
Awesome.
Further discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
move to
Roskinek.
approve the first reading of ordinance 726, an ordinance regulating open burning in Pennington County.
I've got a motion
Second.
and a second to, from Commissioner Roskinek and a second by Commissioner Hadcock to approve the first reading of ordinance 726, an ordinance regulating open burning in Pennington County.
Mr. Chairman,
Jay?
Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. I don't know if you wanted kind of a brief update just on what's new with this ordinance before you pass
Please.
the motion. So what you have before you is it's the ordinance regulating open burning in Pennington County. The current one is number 632. We're proposing a complete repeal of that and a rewrite, as you see, as 726. Just give you a little background. The authority of the county commission to regulate open burnings comes from an entire different section of the code in Title 7 versus Title 34 for fireworks. And we've had an AG opinion on this matter as well. The county can't regulate fireworks through the open burn regulations. We do that separately, and that you were all briefed on that, and you've passed that resolution. This is for actual campfires and regulation of grills and fire pits and burn barrels, et cetera, et cetera. We've had this ordinance in place again for a number of years. And some of the primary things is we clarified in this current draft the jurisdictional boundaries again, that we're not proposing that this ordinance applies inside the Black Hills Forest Fire Protection District or in grounds owned or under the jurisdiction strictly of the federal government or the state of South Dakota. So we've provided that in there. We've also just kind of form and substance just updated some of the terminology and clarified. One of the things we did is, I guess in a nutshell, the prohibition on open burning, as you will see in, let me get it in front of you here. Under the definitions section, section 2, it defines open fire. And you'll see that it accepts out, it's underlined at the bottom there. Open fire doesn't pertain to charcoal grills, liquid fuel grills, outdoor fireplaces, branding iron burners, campfires, or burn barrels, except for the special regulation that is identified there. What that means is, once again, unlike under the fireworks that references the fire danger index as our guide as to when your resolution is effective and not effective, there's no such identifying factor like that under your authority to regulate open burning. With nothing guiding that, it's been kind of a common sense factor to apply those same rules. So we still utilize and propose in the ordinance to utilize that fire danger index, and you can see when reading through it where that comes into play. But what I wanted to point out is there's exceptions to open fire, the ones I just read, and they're individually identified, including a campfire. And I think that's one I wanted to point out specifically. A campfire, by definition, is a campfire that's a very located, discrete area that's contained in a licensed campground. Campfire doesn't mean you're off on a hike and you set a fire to set around before you go to bed for the night. That would be an open burn. And so you would not be allowed to do that. even though people would refer to that as a campfire, but again, pay attention to the definition of campfire. Campfires are only an exception if they're in that contained campground setting. And then it's up to those localized campgrounds. To the extent we have private campgrounds, obviously they have folks coming in that want to have a fire, like we've all done in a campground. This ordinance would not apply to them. That would be entirely up to that private campground owner to decide whether or not to allow fireworks or campfire. The county isn't regulating them. You would like to think, with all of the public service announcements and the coordination between all the entities on this, that obviously a private campground would think long and hard about allowing fires in their campgrounds if it's an extreme weather condition and drought conditions, but it's their decision. So I wanted to make that clear to everybody that this ordinance isn't regulating that private campground. And what happens with a fire there is their responsibility. So I just leave it at that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Oskinen.
There are very specific regulations to burn barrels and outdoor fire pits, and I believe that you work through the state to, if somebody in the Black Hills, they want to have a campfire, that's got to be in a fire pit that's at 3 feet of radius of gravel, then 2 feet of.
Yeah, again, on our burn page, we tie everything back to the state or through the proper permitting agencies. And then for both our ordinance and what the state and the federal government do, we actually use the same diagrams for both the burn barrel and the campfire ring. Everything the public is seeing is the same information. And the diagram or the picture we use is very clear. It's very well done, and it shows exactly what needs to be to meet those regulations.
So Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
So Jerome, do you guys ever go out and look at making sure people are, especially in extremely high or very high conditions, that these campgrounds actually are, they're fire pits and?
The campgrounds, I've never been myself personally on a incident caused by a commercial or federally controlled campground.
There'd be no reason then.
Yeah, if there's any calls to that, I can, generally the campground owner does not want that type of recognition for being Mr. Bonfire, and they do a nice job of controlling that. The rest of it generally falls down to our people as far as dealing with burn barrels and that type of stuff, and our guys are able to deal with that along with the Grassland fire danger rating. This gives them that additional tool to help with the burn barrels. That is a concern of ours, is the burn barrels.
Well, I didn't know that they had specifics like Commissioner Roskinek just put out. That's pretty awesome. I didn't even know there were specifics on how the campgrounds are supposed to have their.
But there's a difference between a regulated fire pit and one of these kettles that you buy at Menards that has the screen, and a lot of people ask, can I put it on my deck? And I've seen them on decks. I mean, that's a little scary. But,
yeah, when we're dealing with or working with planning and zoning on the vacation home rentals, we give them a good job aid to help those people with that. And we even recommend, and I've seen some of these where the fire rings at the vacation home rentals actually have locks on them so that people can't use them during certain climatic conditions.
Nice.
Commissioner LaCroix.
No.
But that's a good point, is that there's a definition of outdoor fireplace, and if you meet that definition, you're accepted from the burn regulation, and that would apply to fire pits. So, people are confused. I have a fire pit. I don't have an outdoor fireplace. No, your fire pit is an outdoor fireplace as long as it meets this definition. If it doesn't meet that definition, you're open burning. So your fire pit, as we like to commonly refer to them, as you said, Commissioner Drew's purchase from Menards or Lowe's or something, that would be open burn if you don't have the grade on top of it and it doesn't meet this definition. So that could be regulated and prohibited based on the fire danger index that's spelled out in the ordinance. So I just want to make some of those things clear. You have to pay very close attention to these definitions to know if you're included or if you're in compliance.
The chart that we have with that's been around since 2012, 2013, clarifies that very well, and that's also made available publicly.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Now I've got a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 726, an ordinance regulating open burning in Pennington County. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerome.
Very good.
So the next item we have comes from our auditor, and I think Cindy is off at meetings. And so we have Tom Grimmond here with Colliers. Tom, would you like to come forward, please? Tom does our bonding, and I'll let you introduce yourself and explain the name change too.
Sure, sure. Tom Grimmond with, well, it used to be Doherty and Company and now Colliers Securities. And I always start off with the pandemic when I make these meetings, and there's always someplace in town. I always say that I don't want any of the commissioners or anybody in the public going to tallies tomorrow morning and saying, hey, I've got something in my throat. I wonder if it was that guy from Sioux Falls that was in spreading germs, all right? So that's why I got my mask on. You can't blame me tomorrow if you guys get a sore throat or something else other than that. I've had my 2 shots and everything. I'm not scared. I'm just got it on for that coffee house talk tomorrow. Anyway, and if it's intimidating, I'll take it off for you. But anyway, Tom Grimmond with Colliers Securities, used to be Doherty and Company. The short story is Mike Doherty, the namesake of the company, his second in command at Doherty and Company decided he wanted to retire, and Mike Doherty took the opportunity to get out also. He grew up in Sioux Falls and saw the need for an investment banking firm to meet the needs of South Dakotans, North Dakotans, the upper Midwest here in Minnesota. So he moved to Minneapolis and opened the company in 1977. His brother was, some of you go back far enough, I think Gary does at least, his brother was Bill Doherty, and Bill Doherty was the lieutenant governor under Knipe. And the lone deciding vote against having an income tax back in the day when that came. And it was interesting because nowadays it just wouldn't even happen. But I bring it up occasionally when people ask because the governor, who was a Democrat at the time, wanted the income tax. And Bill Doherty, a Democrat at the time, said no. He voted against it. So anyway, that's interesting. You just wouldn't see that nowadays in politics. But he stayed by his principles. Anyway, long story short, fast forward 40 plus years, and Mike Doherty retired and sold out to a company called Colliers Securities, which is a large 14,000 person. I haven't seen all those people yet, but 14,000 person company that deals in commercial real estate. So that's where we are today. Same people. Basically, the reason why they went with Colliers is because everybody kind of stays in place. They don't combine any of the functions of the other companies. It's almost like a subsidiary, but they like to put their name. They like to put their name on the door. So so we have Colliers now, and everybody else except for Mike and the CEO Jerry Crowd are pretty much the same folks. So same great service, hopefully for you guys. A little bit about why I'm here. We did a resolution a while back, and I was Cindy asked me if I was going to come out to this. And last time the weather was a little dicey and I didn't want to chance it. And you guys hooked me into Zoom. And Gary, Commissioner Drews, gave me a hard time about being a weenie, I think. And so this time I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to come out. I didn't want to be labeled a 2-time weenie. So here I am presenting today. And you guys passed the resolution initially for the 2017 certificates. At that time, interest rates had gone up a little bit. The 15s and 16s didn't look very favorable at that time. We probably should just put it in there just in case, but we didn't. Interest rates have come back down a little bit to where savings make sense. And so we have the amending resolution adds the 15A and 16A series certificates into the advanced refunding. And of course, as we move forward, if you guys pass this going forward, we would look at each individual issue. And then if interest rates do go up and it doesn't make sense to do the 15s or the 16s or 15s, 16s or 17s, then we'll just take them out of the financing at that time. But we need authority to get to that point where we can make those decisions and move forward.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
Move to approve the resolution to refinance county bonds.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Adcock. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner LaCroy. Further discussion? Tom, we appreciate you doing this. Appreciate
No
you.
problem. Thanks for having me today, and
Yeah.
I get to head to Pier
Always
now.
watching out for our best interest, and we appreciate that. Anytime that we can save the county some dollars relative to these original issuances, we appreciate it. So
You bet.
thank you very
Chairman.
much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
I thought, security guys always are people that are in securities always wore color coordinated masks.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it much. Next item we have is items from Register of Deeds. Audra Castile is also off to meetings, but she is on Zoom, as I understand it, or on audio at least. Audra, are you there?
Good morning, Commissioners. Audra Castile, Pennington County Register of Deeds.
You go ahead and tell us what we have here, would you, Audra?
Yeah, this is a resolution by SDCL 7-9-15 subsection 6. The Board of County Commissioners shall fix by resolution the fees paid by licensed abstractors of the county or by anyone who passed a written examination established by the Abstractors Board of Examiners pursuant to SDCL 36-13-11 for uncertified copies of recorded instruments, which fee may not exceed the actual cost to the county for providing such copies. My predecessor, Donna Meyer, had never put this in front of the commission, and now I have a potential third title company coming into business in Pennington County. So we thought, myself and Jay Alderman thought it was prudent to put this in front of the board.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
Move to approve Pennington County resolution establishing certain fees in Register of Deed office pursuant to SDCL 7-9-15.
I have a motion from Commissioner Adcock. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner LaCroy. Further discussion? Is there anybody here that would like to address this particular issue? Seeing none, back to the commission. Any further discussion in regard to this? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Items from Buildings and Grounds. Mike Cool. Morning, Mike.
Good morning. Mike Cool, Director of Buildings and Grounds. At the end of last year, Pennington County acquired the lamplighter in property on the east edge of our downtown campus here. Given the implementation of new downtown parking regulations and that limit how much time people can park on the street, adjacent construction of new facilities going on around us, and the recent design authorization for the crisis stabilization facility over by the Care Campus. The building committee believes that the best use of that property would be to demolish that building and put in a parking lot. Therefore, I'm here to bring that recommendation forward to the commission. I reached out to Renner Associates to request fees for that. They have submitted a proposal for $14,057 to do documentation for the demolition and construction of a parking lot on that site.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Also discussed in the building committee was the fact that we knew that building sitting empty was going to attract vandalism. And so a couple of weeks ago, that was evident where they're starting to break into the rooms and finding homeless in there. So yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Very good. Commissioner LaCroix.
Mike, when I first heard about wanting to turn this into a parking lot, I was very much opposed to it. I thought for that kind of money for the property that we purchased for, I thought there was a better use than a parking lot and so forth. but after careful consideration and looking at our downtown plan, I could see it as a benefit as possibly being a parking structure 2-3 stories. I'm not talking right away, but I'm talking probably 20, 30 years down. With the development that we're having in this second phase of the downtown redevelopment, it's coming this way. And directly across the street and 2 blocks over, we're getting buildings. And some of the discussions that there's been with maybe trying to relocate the post office and do something there, things could really get, those are just been some of the possibilities that were discussed. But after carefully thinking about those, I could see a parking structure being there. I was really leery on this, just because I've been burned a few times. Like we've relocated the evidence building one other time after rebuilding it, and I was gonna make a recommendation of just doing a paved or a gravel parking lot, but I had second thoughts on all this. Rapid City's growing, and I think it'll help us out tremendously. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that because I did have second thoughts on this, but I've reconsidered.
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock.
they also are hiring a person that does parking and different things for downtown and in all over Rapid City. So they are looking at a person that actually does this kind of thing as well. So it's time to move forward, and they might change rules and regulations a little bit on some of that. So sooner than later is good.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Move to approve the design contract for the Lamplighter in-property demo and parking lot project with Renner and Associates, LLC, in the amount of $14,057, and further move to authorize Building and Grounds Director Mike Huel to have the project design and administrative decision-making authority to include signing documents related to land use or similar project matters, and to have the expenditure authority up to $50,000 as Pennington County's representative.
Is there a second?
Excuse me,
My apologies. I have the wrong motion on your agenda. I missed that it was a recommendation from the building committee, so this is just a motion to acknowledge their recommendation, and it'll be put on the next.
Put on the next
meeting
one?
agenda for the 18th.
Okay.
Yes, my apologies.
Okay, so you'll withdraw your
I will
motion?
withdraw that motion, and we want to continue to the next meeting then.
Not acknowledge it.
It'll automatically be on there.
Okay.
Okay. So, Mike, appreciate you bringing this. Appreciate the building committee weighing in on this. As we know, when we made the acquisition of this property, we didn't have any definitive short-term plans for it. I believe this is a good recommendation. It can always be repurposed later down the road. So I think this is a great move on our part for developing that into a parking lot and getting rid of the existing structure. So, thank you.
thank you.
True.
Any further discussion on it? Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Next item. Ron Jeffries, Central States Fair. I've got Ron Jeffries and Jay Alderman's name down there, so.
I'll take your assistance, Jake.
Morning, Ron.
Good morning, Ron Jeffries, General Manager of Central States Fair.
Jay Alderman with the State's Attorney's Office. So, Commissioners, you have in front of you a proposed agreement. And to give you a little background, back in 2005, 2011, I'm sorry, 2011, there was a statute that was adopted at the legislature that allowed counties to issue a retail on-sale liquor license to their own property, and in this case, the fairgrounds. And so you have to do it by resolution. And so the resolution was passed back on July 5th of 2011. There was also an agreement entered into between the county and Central States Fair, Inc. with regard to that license, like we're going to give it to you under these conditions. That agreement has lapsed from our reading of it, and there's some provisions that could be updated and improved on it, frankly. The resolution is still good, so we don't need to update or change the resolution. It's just this agreement. So what we've proposed is the agreement in front of you that sets the term of the agreement for 5 years, unless sooner modified or terminated. And the terminated is if they end up at the Central States Fair, Inc., or if they end up without a license for any number of reasons. And that still has to go through the typical process. They have to renew every year. If the license were to be revoked or suspended, that has to go through the ordinary course of this body and the Department of Revenue, like all other licenses. So none of that changes. It's just our conditions here are to tell them they have to follow all the regulations of Title 35. They have to indemnify us. They have to carry insurance. We are giving them authority, this body is, to issue special license to third parties. As I understand it, the one out there now, the
German Club.
The German Club, that's a special event license. That's only good for up to 14 days each year. Central States Fair, Inc. is in a unique position to know who should be out there, the conditions and so forth. I don't know that there's any other plans to ever add to that, but we wanted to put that provision in there so that it's clear.
So Jay.
Can't think if there's anything else here, Ron, in particular.
Chairman.
Commissioner Hancock.
So if you have special event license, I never thought about that. Do they have to have insurance and all that kind of stuff too? Okay.
Yes, and we sent their copies as well, includes Pennington County and Central States Fair's additional insurance and the certificates forwarded to Jay and to Cindy.
Okay.
So I have received those and have them on file. And subsection or subparagraph B, Commissioner Hadcock speaks specifically to that. Any third party licensee that's on the premises has to also provide the same liability insurance to the county as Central States Fair, Inc. does. They also have to name Central States Fair, Inc. as an additional insured. So we covered that as well.
So they give those to Ron and they also give them to the county?
Correct.
Correct.
Additional, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
So Jay, basically what we're doing is we're updating this agreement where it becomes effective May 4th, 2021, terminated on May 3rd, 2026.
Correct, unless modified by mutual consent of the parties, or they would lose their license for some reason.
Or cease to exist or anything like that.
Mr. Chair. Any further comments, Ron?
No, I'll just tell you that Jay and Cindy both put time into this, and Jay's done a great job of really researching it. His crew has put a good document together here, and our board president has already signed on it and awaiting your signature.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner.
Move to approve the agreement.
One second. Commissioner LaCroix.
Oh, that's just what I was going to, I'd move to approve the agreement with issuance.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the agreement for the issuance of a retail on-sale liquor license to Central States Fair, Inc. for the use at the fairgrounds pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 35-4-123.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Roskinek, a second by Commissioner LaCroix. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
Dustin Willett, items from emergency management.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission. Dustin Willett, Director of Emergency Management. The standing all things COVID agenda item. I'll give a recap and then again, happy to stand for any questions or go research questions as the case may be. So, some interesting numbers and I know numbers sometimes can be twisted to ideologies or agendas, but in South Dakota right now we have just a hair over 1,500 active cases. The concerning part of that is over 55% of those 1,500 active cases fall into the age group between 10 and 39 years old. So more than half of our current active cases in South Dakota are in that 10 to 39 range. the highest age group, or the highest case rate in that age range are the 10 to 19-year-olds. Now, obviously, 10 to 16 or 10 to 15 right now aren't eligible for a vaccination, but that age group, 10 to 19, account for 19% of our current active cases in South Dakota. So just setting the stage a little bit there. For 16 and older, South Dakota is currently at statewide 55% of the population with at least one dose of vaccine, which is a good number. However, South Dakota was in the lead nationwide on vaccinations, and now we're starting to taper off, and everybody else is starting to ramp up. We've hit all the people that were really excited and pounding on the door and waiting in line to get their vaccine. We've vaccinated that group, and so now it's the grind of getting everybody else who is eligible convinced that the vaccine is a valid way forward. So our numbers are starting to fall a little bit in terms of our vaccine effort, simply because so many of our folks that wanted it have been given it. So we did a really, really good job. We continue to do a good job. We have vaccine availability. At this point, it's a matter of individuals choosing and or not choosing to be vaccinated.
So Dustin, who controls the age group? Is that done by the state DOH or is that done by CDC?
So right now, we're all of our vaccines are under an emergency use authorization from the FDA, and that stipulates that emergency use authorization, easy for me to say, stipulates the ages that it can be given to. So right now, the use authorization from the FDA has 16 and up as what's authorized. The latest news yesterday and today is that Pfizer expects FDA emergency use approval for 12 and older next week. So the hope is that next week that age range will be expanded to 12 and up, down from 16 and up. Or no, I'm sorry, not 12, 10. Pardon me. I think the age is 10 to 15. So that 10 and up is what I think Pfizer is expecting next week. All the others are in various stages of making that same pitch to the FDA. And then long range, the thought is that within this year, within 2021, they expect that emergency use authorization to basically start at infants. So they expect by the end of the year that the vaccine will be available for everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lassner.
Can I ask a couple of questions, just kind of tacking on what you're talking about there? Dustin, if I heard you right, you said that age range of 10 to 39 is kind of where we have most of our COVID cases. Is that what I heard you say?
Our current active cases in South Dakota, 55% are in that age group.
Now, within that age group, is this a new trend, seeing it being that amount?
So they've always been high in terms of overall numbers. The new one is the 10 to 19 range. This is the first time they've been the highest. Young people have always contracted COVID-19 in the pandemic, and it's also been true that the fatalities and the serious illness have been in the older age ranges. But it's not that seeing infections in younger people is new. That is not a new thing. The numbers and the age ranges are starting to trend a little lower, and again, there's no hard data. Everything we're looking at is we're making guesses and inferences based on numbers, and so one of the inferences is we've done a really, really fantastic job of vaccinating our older population, and the older population is more liable to get the vaccine. They want the vaccine, and so as we move forward, that older segment of the population has received their vaccine. They're having way less case rates. The younger folks aren't as inclined to get the vaccination, and we're seeing those case rates increase. Now, whether there is a direct correlation between those, I don't think there's any studies to prove that. It's just looking at the numbers and making some educated guesses. So did that answer the question, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and some numbers to kind of follow that up. those age groups, so that it's 3 brackets, but that age range of 10 to 39, again, they account for 55% of our active cases in South Dakota, and they account for 26% of vaccinations. So only about a quarter of the vaccinations are in that age range. So there's that correlation there. That 10 to 19 group, only 3% of the vaccinations. But again, 10 to 15 aren't even eligible. Yeah, Pfizer is set for 10 and up, anticipating early next week. So again, the last statewide thing that I was going to talk about for COVID are the variants. People still are, the Center for Disease Control, CDC, even has them labeled. They have variants of interest and variants of concern. There's tons of variants out there. The variants of concern are the ones that have some reason to be concerned about. They transmit more readily, whatever the case may be. Of all those variants of concern, South Dakota has instances of all of them. So if you group all of the variants together, the last data that we got from the Department of Health was there's 86 confirmed variant cases in South Dakota. 72 were the UK variant, 11 are the 2 different California variants, 2 are South Africa variants, 1 is the Brazilian variant. So, and that Brazilian sometimes is called Tokyo/Brazil, but the Brazilian variant. So we have all of them in South Dakota. They're out there, and really most of the concern with those is they seem to transmit more readily. They seem to transmit more easily and faster than the original strains that swept across the country. Some studies have it all the way up to some of those variants. If you look at the extremes, and the extremes are almost never right, but if you look at the extremes, some of them say some of those variants are 80% more transmissible than the original. So that's why they're of concern. So that's kind of what I had for state numbers from COVID. For Pennington, we're sitting at 157 active as of yesterday. We still have an 8.6 weekly positivity rate. Again, 5% is what we're looking at. So that 8.6 and our numbers still keep us in that moderate spread according to the South Dakota Department of Health metric. All total, we've had 191 deaths attributed to individuals with a Pennington County zip code. And currently we have 8 patients, COVID-19 positive patients in the Monument Health system. So that single-digit number in Monument Health is encouraging and good. In terms of Pennington County, and this is specific to population 16 and above, so those that are eligible. So out of Pennington County's population, age 16 and above, we're sitting right at about 39% vaccinated. And that might be a little bit higher by a percentage or two, but the most solid numbers I could get were about 39% of everyone in Pennington County over the age 16. I've also talked multiple times about the CDC ensemble model, 15 or so different predictions, and then they take the average of that prediction, and the CDC puts out about a 2-week prediction on their model. And for us in Pennington County, over the next 2 weeks, so through the middle of May, it has a slight increase, trending upward over the next 2 weeks in Pennington County. It's not a super sharp rise, but it's not a flat line either. It is they're forecasting a slight increase over the next couple weeks in Pennington County. So the other thing that I had, I've fielded some questions from several different folks from city departments and county offices regarding flu and the comparison of flu numbers to COVID numbers and what we're looking at. We still have almost a non-existent flu season. We have had 2 deaths this year in South Dakota related to flu. As a little bit of a comparison, again, the last flu season, 2018-2019, there was an estimated 9,555 cases statewide. This year, and the flu season is typically October through May, so we're just at the tail end of flu season. This year, that same estimated number is 270. So 270 down from 9,555 last year. So very, very stark difference in flu cases. So if we go back to one of the questions I got was how does flu compare to COVID in terms of Pennington County? And I can't answer that for Pennington County because the data is not that granular. It's a state level data set. But if I go back to 2018, 2019, because the 2021 flu season is pretty much non-existent, even if we take that 2018, 2019 flu season with the 9,555 cases, if we compare that directly to COVID-19 cases for that exact same time range, we've got about 17% more COVID-19 cases than we had flu cases. So any way you stack it, we've had more COVID-19 than flu. And so that was the end of my prepared comments or remarks. Happy to stand for any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hoskin.
So if I understand it, I'm more likely to get COVID from somebody that's 10 to 40 years old opposed to somebody that's 70 to 90.
So the only problem with that inference is we don't know if you've been vaccinated. We don't know if you can still carry it and transmit it to somebody. So you might not have an active case of the disease. You might not be symptomatic. You might be fully vaccinated, but they just don't know if you can still transmit it. And hence a lot of the controversy around some of it. But most of our active cases are in the younger age range.
Yeah, that was I guess that's what I wanted to get across.
Yep.
Any further questions of Dustin? Dustin, thank you. Appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Have a great day.
Joe Miller, items from the Highway Department.
Morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Superintendent. First item up in front of you, item A, is a rebate program that was brought to me by Dan Larson, our shop foreman here, brought forward an opportunity to get a pretty good discount on a new truck. Currently, we're back to even, I'll say, with our trucks. We purchased 5 in 2019, 1 in 20, 1 in 2021, and we've currently have 6 trucks that we've taken out of commission due to no longer meeting DOT compliance. Their frames have cracked due to the double wall frame and rust getting in there and spreading that frame apart and cracking that frame, which can't do any welding on frame unless it's done by the manufacturer, and the manufacturer not interested in doing that. So we've taken those trucks out of commission. So if we're successful in getting this grant, we'll get a 60% discount. So we'll take that, I believe it's $111,000 down 60%. If we're successful in this, we would like to put 2 new trucks into our 2022 budget to try and get ahead of this game. We still have several trucks that have that double wall frame. Let's see here. Current target dates for this grant, they're to be announced in July of 2021, if you allow us to apply for that. And then the trucks need to be ordered from July to September and then delivered by December of 2022. With that,
Chairman.
I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioner Adcock.
Move to authorize the Highway Department to submit a truck replacement application through SDDENR Volkswagen Truck Rebate Program.
Is there a second?
And then I have a question. I second, then
I've got a motion by Commissioner Adcock, second by Commissioner LaCroix. Commissioner LaCroix.
So, in this grant, it says you have to decommission it. Can we use any of the parts off it I'm sure we're going to strip off whatever we need to transfer over to the other truck. Is there any parts? I'm sure your foreman probably has a good idea what.
Right. So
because we can't trade it in. It has to be decommissioned.
Right, and the truck that we've chosen is already pretty much decommissioned. We can use the parts and pieces like the box and the cab and stuff like that. The engine block itself will have to be decommissioned, but the rest of the parts and pieces we still have some trucks that can
I'm just thinking that's something we could keep going till we get more funding for, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item B.
Item B is a request for Sunquist Lane construction engineering. So example is what Ferber Engineering is doing on our Sheridan Lake Road project, just administering the project, making sure that all guidelines are followed, helping the state inspect it, basically. We've never inspected a project of this magnitude ourselves in-house, so that's why we would request the assistance of Bros Engineering.
We originally planned to bid this project last fall, but due to some unforeseen circumstances with needing some right-of-way, we are still working through that. The right-of-way should be completed this month, so we can go to bid for this fall for construction in 2022. So I guess with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, questions of Joe?
Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock.
move to approve professional services agreement PC 121-2021 with Bros Engineering Incorporated for the construction engineering for the replacement of Bridge 52-305-300 on the Sauticus Lane in a not-to-exceed fee of $68,425.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second from Commissioner Hadcock and Commissioner LaCroix. I don't have any speaker request forms up here, but I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the public that's here relative to this issue. If not, back to the commission. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C.
Item C is a bridge that you guys are familiar with. This is the one that collapsed last year. We originally had a delamination project, which is once we peeled that asphalt layer off there, the concrete deck units had spalled and there's chunks of concrete missing out of those deck units. Over the course of this winter, for whatever reason, it deteriorated at an excelled rate for some reason. At the end of last year, the recommendation by KLJ was just to do the delamination repair, which we had on the books for this year. But after this winter, we had received phone calls from the public stating that there's holes in this bridge. So we went out and took a look at it, called KLJ, our bridge inspection engineer, had them go out and take a look at it, and they suggested replacing 8 deck units. So with that being said, we've got 2 bridges that we were doing this type of work on, and we've approached JV Bailey, that is the contractor on those bridges, if they would be interested in doing this work for us, much like we did last year when that bridge collapsed. So they are interested in doing that work. The cost for that would be their change order request is $97,997.45. Of that is covered in our 2021 budget.
So moved.
So.
Second. A motion by Commissioner Hadcock and a second by Commissioner Lassiter. Further discussion. So, Joe, do we have other bridges out there on Nemo Road that we'll be working on this year too?
Yes, all of the bridges that we did work on last year are part of that delamination project that JV Bailey's got. So we will be working on the other bridges doing this delamination. We won't be doing any double T replacements because we did those last year. So yes, we will be working on those bridges, the rest of them on Nemo Road.
So any idea on time frame on
getting this one fixed?
Yep.
We put it on the top of their radar. We haven't had a pre-construction meeting with them, so I unfortunately don't know any time frame on. Currently, we've got at the recommendation of KLJ, we've installed a median to keep the traffic off of these center decks that are showing this, and reduce the speed to 25 miles an hour. So.
Yeah, very good.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Joe, where is this? So they're suggesting to replace 8 of those concrete panels?
Correct.
And where's that bridge at relative to the one that failed last year?
It is the one that failed last year.
That's what I thought. It looked pretty familiar. I thought, so they just repaired that, right?
We replaced, I don't remember how many deck units last year, but we replaced deck units, the ones that failed and the other ones that were recommended. The other ones at the time were only recommended for delamination repair, which we had slated for this year. But over the course of the winter, they deteriorated at an excelled rate for whatever reason. So at this spring, when we went out to take a look at them after we've received phone calls from the citizens saying, hey, there's a hole in this deck, KLJ took a look at them and said delamination repair is not going to fix the issue. These deck units need to be replaced now.
So when we're all said and done, this is going to pretty much be a complete new concrete deck on that bridge.
Correct.
Chairman.
Commissioner Hadcock.
So are you leaving one lane open?
Yes, there will always be traffic through this.
Okay, just because you already know from last time.
Yep.
Remember they couldn't get through and there's some issues with that, so I'm
So-
glad we can leave it open.
When you're working on that bridge, is that, the trucks that haul from the iron ore mill, are they limited at all? If it's just down the one lane, are they limited at all?
No, they'll still be able to use this
So,
route.
same amount, same density of traffic.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman.
One more question. Have you talked to any of the other departments that go further towards Nemo, if they've had any problems with their bridges?
I have not. I know Meade County just got one of their bridges replaced under the big grant. The one just to would be the north of this one, just if you're going towards Nemo. I don't remember the year that they got that replaced, but that one's been replaced, and I don't believe there are any other bridges from the iron ore to our so they're not having any issues.
Commissioner Laster.
Joe, question for you about that bridge. And, you mentioned that the bridge started deteriorating faster than expected. And obviously we had the collapse on that bridge as well. Is anyone looking into what may be causing the accelerated deterioration of that bridge for us to have that collapse and then now these holes to be forming? I mean, maybe it's material, maybe it's something else in the area, maybe too heavy loads. I mean, is there something that y'all are looking into to try to figure out why maybe this is rapidly deteriorating?
I can't say why this specific bridge is, and no, we haven't been looking into it. The rest of the bridges, they didn't deteriorate at that same rate because we did work on all the other. There's 5 other bridges on that road, and they were all slated for delamination work, and they all appear to be about the same condition as they were last fall. So, why this one did what it did, I don't know.
So, Joe, when KLJ does their inspections, is that something they look at obviously they look at deterioration and so forth as part of their inspection, but do they carry that on any further than that? Follow up Commissioner
Not
Laster's
to my knowledge.
question?
I know the inspection, they look at it, we look at our bridges half one year, half the next. So they're federally mandated to be looked at every 2 years. We do look at some every year just due to the nature of them, like South Rochford Road Bridge. That was one that was inspected every year. I believe the one we just actually got a federal grant for on Hammerquest is another one that's looked at every year. There's certain bridges that are looked at every year, but generally speaking, the majority of our bridges are looked at every 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Along with everybody else is concerned, when those inspections are done, so we don't do any material analyze the concrete to see if there's something wrong with that. I mean, on some of these, some machinery, you take oil samples, you can find out what's going on. Do we do any of that with the bridges?
Not necessarily, because I guess my question would be, if you did find out what was going on, those bridge decks are 30 years old. What are you going to do? It'd almost be money spent that there's no recourse, right? Other than to know, okay, this is why it happened. But
Unless you had more in that same year built.
Right.
Same company, same manufacturer.
Same issues.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the change order number 1 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D.
Item D, request to hire our flaggers, or seasonal flagger position. I don't recall what step, but the hourly is $14.46 an hour. As I'm sure everybody is aware in this room, and you can't go anywhere without seeing a help wanted sign or a now hiring sign. We've been looking for seasonal flaggers since February 28th. We attempted to hire one, couldn't get that one hired. This position is crucial to keeping traveling public safe and our crews safe. If we don't pay this $14.46, we're going to end up paying a highway worker $17, $18, $19 an hour to do that same job. And then it takes away from other jobs that we could be getting done. So that would be our request, is to be able to advertise and hire this position at $14.46.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I'd make the motion to grant the exception for the compensation policy to authorize advertisement of the flagger position grade A12, step 7 at $14.46 per hour.
Second.
And I've got a second. Commissioner LaCroix made the motion. Commissioner Adcock made the second. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E.
Item E, the big one on the docket here. There's been a lot of conversation. I've met with, I believe, all the commissioners over the last couple weeks here. Had several conversations with the state regarding the funding. I'll start off with all of this is based off of the repurposing guidelines from 2020 from Federal Highway. We don't have the repurposing guidelines for 2021 yet. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but they thought that they should have those within weeks of the meeting a couple weeks ago. So I talked to Tammy Williams yesterday. She hadn't heard if we had gotten those guidelines just yet. So currently, the South Rochford funding is at risk of being rescinded by the legislature or, I guess, Federal Transportation Commission if the money is not obligated by September 30th. Some of the things to get this money obligated, we need to have bid-ready plans, which plans are complete and those are ready. The environmental assessment needs to be recertified. That's currently in progress. Don't know exactly the time frame to get that completed. Memorandum of agreement with the tribal leaders. This is currently in process. The time frame completion unknown. The Forest Service portfolio review can be completed after the EA and the MOA are completed. This could take several months once that process takes place. Sheridan Lake Road took a year or better to get that right-of-way certification from the Forest Service. The South Rochford Road Bridge didn't take quite that long. It took about 3 months, I believe, on that from start to finish. And then the right-of-way certification is currently in progress. We've got one more landowner to get signed up, and then some agreements with the tribes for some temporary easement to get that completed. Currently, so I'll get into the funding, I guess. Currently, we have an SIB loan, which is a state infrastructure bank loan.
Joe, sorry, Chair. Can you show that on the screens for the general public in case they end up watching this? Do you have a screen that showing what you're doing, kind of like you showed us, commissioners?
I don't think I have.
I apologize. I should have asked you ahead of time, but that way the general public can see the numbers and why we're doing it because of Rochford Road has been delayed. We wanted, people in that area need to know why and the numbers.
While Joe is looking, I just want to point out that none of these items that he just mentioned, like the environmental assessment, the agreement with the tribes that needs to be signed off with, the Forest Service agreement, none of these things are new or different. They would have had to have been completed anyway.
Right.
And so there's nothing there that's holding this up. Just a matter of moving through those. And I think even on the right-of-way, that's a verbal agreement at this point in time, and we're just waiting to get the signed agreement on that.
Correct.
Commissioner
Maybe it's for Joe. So when we do another EIN, which they keep having us do every time, are we going to have to, again, you are getting those agreements now, Joe, for the future, or you can use the ones you have because they renew every 2 or 3 years, if I'm correct?
I guess I missed the first part of that.
About getting the agreements with the tribes and getting the agreements with the EIN, redoing the environmental assessment is the EIN. But bottom line is, I thought you had to redo those every 2 to 3 years because of changing environment.
I don't recall the time frame, but there is a time frame in which you have to get that once it's because it was done in 2017, so I believe it was a 3 or a 4 year term that you had to get this project built. So after that has expired, now we've got to go back and look at the environmental aspect again.
And Joe, you're making the timing all go together because that's going to take you a while to get that done again with all the the fern stuff and some other stuff. That it could be 3 to 4 years before you even build or redo this project?
Well, hopefully, we're hoping that we're going to get this thing let in December. Is the goal currently. Whether that happens, I don't know. We've got to have a goal to shoot for, and that's our goal.
I guess the bottom line is to look at those agreements, and you said you're looking at those, right. But remember that when they expire, you start all over again, and you cannot build until you have those agreements.
Correct.
Okay.
So I guess with the funding summary here,
I'll start with Sheridan Lake Road and what we have on Sheridan Lake Road. So this is a breakdown of the funding for Sheridan Lake Road. SIB loan from the federal government. This is $7.2 million. The state matches that at a percentage, I believe it was 18.05%, of 1.5. So total, this is the SIB loan that I was speaking of. Total funding on the SIB loan is $8.8 million. So the total state and federal funding on this project is $14.9 million. Currently, we get about $852,000 per year in STIP funding, which we've been banking for several years. Heine just had that banked, and so did Tom. So that piggy bank, the SDP piggy bank that the state has for us, is about $6 million currently. So that's what we have to put towards this. Then we need the SIB loan of $8.8 million to reach this $22.9 million. So of county funds, we're currently contributing $8,047,880. That's out of our road and bridge reserves county funds. So now I go up to South Rochford Road. Currently, this one hasn't been bid yet, obviously. The estimated bid or the estimated cost in August was 11.6. This was done by Interstate Engineering at the current time. So our federal funding, federal earmark funds has gone down a little bit. We've expended some of that on the engineering and whatnot. The county fund, so that's what's left for the project, for the construction project. So the county funds will be $4.7 million if we don't change anything. So that's to get to this $11.6 million. So what I'm proposing to the commission would be my recommendation. This funding is at risk of being lost if the legislator or the Federal Transportation Commission wishes to rescind those funds with the new federal highway bill in September if the funds aren't obligated. Essentially, the county funds on South Rochford Road would go down to $2.5 million. Now, in turn, the county funds on Sheridan are going to go up to $10.3 million because we're swapping this $8.8 million that we have on Sheridan to South Rochford in lieu of this 6.8. So then we take the 6.8, it's actually 6.5 now. Apologize for not having that updated. Take the 6.5 and put that on Sheridan, and that obligates that fund. We then are no longer at risk of losing $6.5 million. And I've talked to Tammy Williams. I've got a verbal from her that once this is done, we can go through the process to get the SIB loan and a guarantee on that. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Questions? Commissioner Ross.
Just want to point out that we got that letter from Joel Junt, the Secretary of South Dakota DOT. Basically, he's warning us with the new administration, this could be very dicey. So I think this is a good insurance policy to get both projects done. I would just like to read a couple paragraphs out of your letter, Joel. We would recommend that the repurpose be strictly contingent upon two things. One, the entire remaining balance of the earmark be repurposed to the Sheridan Lake Road project. Two, transferring the federal aid loan agreement, SIB loan, for the Sheridan Lake Road project in the amount of $8,852, as it would no longer be necessary with the repurposed earmark to the South Rochford Road project. If South Dakota DOT agrees to the loan transfer, both projects can still move forward as planned with only one change in allocation of funds. A motion to repurpose entire remaining earmarked funds for EM 6403-06 South Rochford Road reconstruction, P648004 Sheridan Lake Road reconstruction contingent upon the transfer of the SIB loan in the amount of $8,852,000 from the Sheridan Lake Road project to the South Rochford Road project. So if I understand that, they both proceed forward, just reallocating some funds.
That is correct.
That's your motion?
No, that's just, I wanted to read that. for the record.
Commissioner LaCroy.
The motion was in there. But no, my comment that I wanted to say is, first, I wanted to thank Joe and your staff for inviting me in and having this discussion we had a full house and had some good, honest conversation. And number one, I think I was trying to get a recommendation out of you and you were trying to get a recommendation out of me. It wasn't working until I looked at Connie. And Connie gave me the look, but and that helped me understand where we're going with this. I did reach out to try and help as far as getting some of the signatures. Hopefully we can get something worked together with the tribes and we can get that done. But I think this has been, as you've stated yourself, 2014, it's been dragged on. And I am in agreement with, as long as we transfer that, we're going to be on the safe side. We want to get this done. I just wanted to read part of this deal from the State Historic Society that was in your paperwork. And the reason why we have to redo some of these things is because we didn't ask for an amendment. The agreement was for 5 years, and then we didn't ask for an amendment. So now we have to start all over. We've done this 2 or 3 times, at least twice that I know of. And I don't know how the rest of the commission is. I'm supportive of this, but I'd also, at this point, would like a monthly briefing or update at a meeting once a month to see where we're at. A status update once a month. When we could do an email, do stuff like that, but I think that's nonchalant. I get most of my information, I think, is body language and seeing someone in person. And I think it's more personal, more accountability, not only for us, but for you also. I don't know what other commissioners feel about that, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we do have bi-weekly meetings on this with the state, or bi-monthly meetings with the state on this to keep this thing moving forward. And that was Tammy Williams doing back last year, about this time. The state is very committed to getting this thing moved forward and off their books as well.
Further discussion?
I guess I essentially read the motion, so I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Ross Connect and a second by Commissioner Hadcock to repurpose the entire remaining earmarked funds for EM 640306 South Rochford Road reconstruction to P 648004 Sheridan Lake Road reconstruction contingent upon the transfer of the SIB loan in the amount of $8,852,000 from the Sheridan Lake Road project to the South Rochford Road project. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 21, request for a variance to Ordinance 14. Joe.
I'll let the applicant speak first.
Okay.
Chairman?
Commissioner Hadcock.
Without sounding rude, the highway department's in favor of this, and I don't see any reason why they'd have to present their case unless somebody has something different than what the highway is saying, because if they're in approval, I would make a motion to move to approve.
I would second that motion.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Hadcock, second from Commissioner Ross Connect to approve. Is there anything that you would like to provide to the commission?
No, we've done a lot of work and we appreciate your time and thank you for your service, as this is the week for service from our great workers.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks for spending the morning with us.
What is the procedure next? Will we be notified?
Joe, what's the procedure next for approved?
Okay,
for the
did you get a
approval?
written approval from someone?
Yeah, we'll get the approach permit to you, and then you guys can build the approach permit or the approach. So,
Thank you so much for your time.
just stop in our office probably tomorrow or the next day.
We thought we'd
We'll
just
have
save
the-
you time today.
We'll have to
Thank
have
you.
the board minutes. I don't know when those will be up, so probably maybe next week actually before.
That's no problem.
Next week, or
Yeah.
end of this week.
Yeah, so we'll have to have the board minutes to go with this one. Just
All those in favor of the motion
Yeah.
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you,
Motion
folks.
carried. Thank you.
5 minutes, sir.
Okay. We'll take a break for 5 minutes.
10 minutes.
Thank you. Need a motion to go into Board of Adjustment?
Moved.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner LaCroy. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Brittany.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Item A is variance VA 21-05 to reduce the setback from 25 feet to 0 feet or 1.5 times the height of a structure for the construction of solar panel structures. This property is located south of New Underwood. There is an approved conditional use permit for a utility scale solar farm, 20-18. The Planning Commission did review this conditional use permit on April 26, 2021. As you can see on the map, there's a couple of blue lines on Lori Swanson's property there and Lori Swanson's property to the north. It's a north and south setback and an east and west setback. The Highway Department did not object to this request as long as they meet the setbacks to section line right-of-ways. I do want to go through the prongs. Does it injure the neighborhood? No. The request does not appear to be a threat of a nuisance to the neighborhood. Does it conform to the neighborhood? Solar panel structures are not common in the area. However, alternative energy systems are allowed in an agriculture district with an approved CUP, and Wild Springs does have an approved CUP. Does it conform to the general purpose of the zoning ordinances? No, the zoning ordinance requires a 25-foot setback or 1.5 times height of structure, whichever is greater, for the construction of the solar panels. Does it conform to the comprehensive plan currently in place? And A, does it harm the public safety, health, or general welfare of the community? Placement of the solar panel structures within the required setback does not appear to harm the public or the community. And finally, prong 2, does a special condition, exceptional narrowness, topography, siting, or the like exist on the property? And no, the property is sloping open prairie consisting of approximately 234 acres. No physical conditions exist that would warrant approval of this request. I do want to take time to address the applicant's reasoning for requesting this variance. They had indicated that applying for the setbacks of 25 feet or 1.5 times the height of the structure from participating parcel property lines would cause the project to lose roughly 50 acres of developable space for the solar energy system. Applying the setback would impact the project's ability to meet its authorized interconnection production output. Additionally, applying the setback would result in an inefficient land use, particularly considering the affected parcels are owned by participating landowners. For those of you who are not familiar with this conditional use permit, there are land leases with all of the participating landowners for these structures. Staff is recommending denial of this variance. However, if the board disagrees with staff's recommendation and approves the request, staff recommends one condition be included, that this variance applies only to the solar panel structures, and all other structures must maintain the proper setbacks or obtain separate variances.
Chairman.
Just 1 second. I understand we do have Melissa Schmidt on the phone at least.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Hadcock.
I was just gonna move approval based on the something, but economic development and some other things that I agreed that this should move forward. So if she's from this company and you would like her to speak first, that'd be fine.
Melissa Schmidt, would you like to give a presentation to the commission?
Yes, sir. This is Melissa Schmidt on behalf of Wild Springs, and I'll actually pass things over to Molly Smith, Project Counsel, who can provide some more information on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say, if you do want to move forward, we don't have an objection with that. But if we would like to provide a response to staff's recommendation as needed to address any potential concerns. So before I move forward, would you like me to go through our presentation, or would you like to have further discussion before I do that?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I'd be willing to do the findings. It sounds like Ms. Hadcock would probably do a motion off my findings.
I think Travis would like to, since it's his district, if he could, Lloyd.
Yes, sir. I was going to actually ask one question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification. But yes, I was going to do the findings because I agree with Commissioner Hadcock that because it's the internal lot lines. But my question
Is of who?
to the staff, just out of curiosity. So I'm assuming it's all the blue lines that we're talking about. Those are the lot lines we're specifically talking about, the internal ones?
Correct.
And does that impact, because I know the setback, I don't know, I remember the layout whenever we saw this originally in the planning. That little corner right there where Canopy Ranch and Gene Crosby's is there. Would this impact anything going through there? Because I don't remember if anything was connected through there. I just want to make sure that while I'm looking at this and saying we only want it to be the perimeter of the entire, outline of this, that they would have those setbacks on. I'm worried about that one corner there too. Is it going to impact there? Is it going to cause them not to be able to put a line through there or something of that nature?
So the Canopy Ranch LLP, the property that you're speaking of, is not part of the project.
Right.
They have indicated that they are going to meet the setbacks to those property lines. They're just not going, they want to go across because they do have leases with the Crosbys, the Swansons, and then the Brunses. So they want to utilize that whole piece.
Absolutely. I got that. But that little bitty narrow piece, that's the piece I'm asking. I remember when we saw the layout, so you see where Canopy Ranch LLP is.
Oh, this.
And then there's a little bitty corner there. I just want to make sure if we do this, we're not inadvertently keeping them from being able to put a line or connector in that little corner section.
One right here. Oh, right there.
Right there, yep. Is it wide enough for them to still do whatever they need to do without having to deal with these,
Show me
with the
that
setbacks
again,
there?
Brittany. I didn't see it.
Right there.
Okay.
Because see how they're real close together? I just want to make sure that, we're attributing whatever we need to for that particular corner, if they're running a line or whatever. I just can't remember what the layout was whenever I saw it back on the planning and zoning. Does that make sense?
Yes, and the layout has changed a little bit, not significantly. I believe Melissa can answer that question. I know that looks like it's pretty narrow, but it's probably not.
Melissa,
when
did you
zoom it in.
understand the question that was asked?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm unable to, see what you're pointing to on the map. So I can't pinpoint, the exact location just from the discussion.
I can walk through it. It's the southwest corner of the Canopy Ranch LLP and the northeast corner of the Gene Crosby. Where the yellow lines come in real close together.
Oh, that just where the project gets very narrow between those 2 points.
Yes, ma'am. Is there enough space in between there for y'all to do what your layout plan is, that you would still be able to meet the setbacks for those particular properties that you're not asking to, have the setback from?
Yes, sir, because those, that small area right there, the collection lines will be placed in that area. And so, the setback would be specific, my understanding, to the panels, and so that would not impact any project design at that pinch point.
Okay, that's the only question I had, and unless anybody has any other questions, I'd be willing to do the motion based on findings.
We're open for a motion.
All right, well, I would like to make a motion based on the findings that all properties are already in that, maybe I'm looking for the right word here, the land lease for this big project. They've all agreed to that, and that we would, that this variance applies only to the solar panel structures and those lot lines that are highlighted here in the map that we're looking at, and it does not affect the perimeter lines.
So Travis, you gotta use the prong 2. You gotta add ordinance and spirit while doing substantial justice. You're proving why you're actually thinking this is a good idea.
Gotcha, so
One
that
of
prong
those
2 there.
prongs.
Does a special condition condition exceptional narrowness, topography, sitting, or the like exist on the property? I think there is, in the aspect of they're all contiguous for the job to be done for the economic development. I would say that also there is a special condition that exists is because they're all part of that same development contract for the layout of the solar panel project. And does granting the variance observe the ordinance's spirit while doing substantial justice? Absolutely, because we're still keeping the perimeter lot lines having the variance, or having the setback on those perimeter lot lines. Does that answer? I'm sorry, I was a little rough on this one, so.
So do we have,
Did you get all that?
you have this written out, Commissioner Lassiter?
No, but I think Lloyd's walking through, it's me showing me the right specific wording here.
Literal enforcement of this ordinance.
You have Cullen here, he'll walk you through.
Mr. Chair.
Unnecessary.
Commissioner Cullen.
Colin McNeese, State's Attorney's Office, Commissioner Lassiter.
I'm running a little rough, sorry, Colin.
It's okay.
I think you know what I want, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, we can definitely walk you through that. Do you agree with staff's finding on the first prong?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then it's the second prong, what you articulated, that it's all one contiguous property, it's not going to harm anybody else. That would be the second prong?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for the motion, you could go move to approve variance VA 2105 based on the following filings. As to prong one, I agree with staff's findings. As to prong two, I find that the project is all one contiguous property. All the landowners agree. And that to deny this would create a substantial hardship in that it would deny economic development.
There you go.
And granting the variance observes the ordinance's spirit while doing substantial justice.
That's what I heard.
Sorry, it's a bit wordy.
No, that's good. Can I just say move to approve that?
I'm more concerned about whether or not we have it.
I've got it in shorthand and on the recorder, so yeah,
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's your motion?
That would be my motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lassiter. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Hadcock. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I've just got to ask this question. When you're dealing with 240 acres or 234 acres, I'm trying to figure out why you need a 25-foot variance. Not that I don't agree with it, but it just seems like you acquire the land, you develop the project, and so normally you would, once you got that land acquired, the project would be built around the boundary of the land. So I'm just trying to figure out what the need for 25 foot for or trying to waive the 25 foot. I'm just trying to understand the methodology behind that.
Sure, it's just the setback requirement that's actually under section 317 and in the agriculture district. So they require the 25-foot setback from exterior lot lines. Not in every instance that you would have adjoining landowners that may not agree, so that setback would be enforced on the internal. And because these are internal lot lines, like I said, these are the only ones that are internal lot lines. This variance and the next variance. And the next variance is a little different because the landowner is the same, but they are considered lot property lines, so there is
Okay.
a setback requirement.
Further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 21-06.
Item B is variance VA 21-06 for Wild Springs Solar LLC Geronimo Energy to reduce the setback from 25 feet to 0 feet or 1.5 times the height of structure for construction of solar panels in an agriculture district. Again, this is for the same project, just a different property. And I can go through prong one. There is this request does not appear to be a threat of nuisance to the neighborhood. Number two, solar panels structures are not common in the area. However, alternative energy systems are allowed in the agriculture district with an approved CUP. Wild Springs does have an approved CUP. Number three, does it conform to the general purpose of the zoning ordinance? No, the zoning ordinance requires a 25-foot setback or 1.5 times the height of the structure, whichever is greater, for construction of solar panel structures. And number four, does it conform to the comprehensive plan currently in place? It's not applicable. Does it harm the public safety, health, or general welfare of the community? No. Placement of the solar panel structures within the required setback does not appear to harm the public or community. And for prong two, does a special condition exist, exceptional narrowness, topography, siting, or the like exist on the property? And no. But this property does consist of 213 acres. Again, staff is recommending denial. However, if you disagree with staff's recommendation and approve the request, staff recommends one condition, that this variance applies only to solar panel structures, and all other structures must maintain the proper setbacks or obtain separate variances.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
I'm going to make a motion to approve staff findings on number 1, the same. On special condition, I think there is, because one contiguous property, I'm going to copy Travis. Number 2, ordinance spirit while doing substantial justice for economic development would be B.
Madam, could I add something to yours?
Anytime you second it and then
I'll
amend
second
it.
I'll second it.
Okay,
We got
thank you.
second from Commissioner LaCroix.
And I just wanted to add to the second part of Ms. Hancock's motion would be that applying the setback would impact the project's ability to meet its authorized interconnection production output. Additionally, applying the setbacks would result in inefficient use, particularly considering the affected parcels are owned by participating landowners.
So you're offering that
Get all that,
as
Lori?
wait a minute, or what,
That's just an addition to her second prong approach.
Item A or B? A?
B.
B, okay.
that agreeable with the person making the
Yes, sir.
motion?
Amendment's good.
You got that?
Yeah, no, go back.
I'll get it recovered, yeah.
Do you have the paper so you can have it?
Yeah.
We got it.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item C.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item C is subdivision regulations variance 21-05 to waive the requirement to dedicate and improve a section line crossing on lot 23. Excuse me. The applicant and landowner is Tim and Tara Duda. Their agent is DC Scott Surveyors. Location is off of Danube Lane in Edelweiss Mountain Development. Staff recommends approval of subdivision regulations variance 21-05. There are special conditions on the property that would excuse literal enforcement of Pennington County subdivision regulations 500.7. Staff determined that through a two-prong approach. Prong 1, does it injure the neighborhood? Staff found that no, it does not. Danube Lane and Brenner Pass provide access to the subdivision. Number 2, does it conform to the neighborhood? Staff found yes. The neighborhood is residential in nature and platted rights of way exist that provide access to all existing lots. Number 3, does it conform to the general purpose of the subdivision regulations? Staff found yes. In such instances where adjoining landowner may decline to participate in the right-of-way dedication, or if it is not practical or not desirable to construct the street within an existing section line right-of-way, the Board of County Commissioners may authorize a new right-of-way where the developer will improve and dedicate the entire required street right-of-way within the boundaries of the developing property. Dedicated and improved rights-of-way do exist in this area. Number 4, does it conform to the comprehensive plan currently in place? Staff found yes. The current comprehensive plan identifies the property as suburban residential district, which requires a 6,500 square foot lot size. And lastly, number 5, does it harm the public safety, health, or general welfare of the community? Staff found no. Existing platted right-of-ways exist to provide access to all existing lots for ingress, egress, and emergency response purposes. And second, prong 2, takes into account physical conditions. First question is, does a special condition such as exceptional narrowness, topography, siting, or the like exist on the property? Staff found yes. Siting and topography do play a role. Danube Lane and Brenner Pass are existing platted rights-of-way that provide access to all existing lots within the proposed subdivision. And during a site visit, it appears that the locations of these rights-of-way were chosen to follow topography of the neighborhood. And as you can see on the map here, I do have a topographical map that shows the lot 23 and the section line that goes through it. This is the proposed layout plan that they submitted earlier this year. The Board of Commissioners did approve with one condition, or with conditions, and this approval would satisfy condition number 1 of that layout plan. And this is a site visit. Subject property is straight ahead here On the picture, you can see Brenner Pass on the left, Danube Lane on the right. Topography does appear to be an issue as there's a pretty steep grade here, as well as somewhat of a small canyon with a creek to the right. This is another view looking east. This is approximately where the section line would be going up that incline of that hill and the creek and ravine to the right there. So with that, staff recommends approval of this variance.
Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock.
make a motion to approve based on staff findings.
Second.
Mr. Chair.
Got a motion from Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter. Commissioner Roskinek.
I just want to thank Jason for putting together such a good report. It makes it very easy to understand and helps guide us in making, approving your motion, which just a nice report. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Need a motion to adjourn the Board of Adjustment and reconvene the Board of Commissioners.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Roskinek, second by Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent calendar.
The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items. The consent agenda is acted on by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following item. Minor plat 21-15, the applicant is Jessica Hessler, Seven Wonders LLC. Fisk Land Surveying is the agent, and approval is recommended.
Is there anybody from the public wishing to have this item removed from consent calendar? Any person from the commission wishing to have this removed from the consent calendar? If not, I'd take a motion
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner Roskinek. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner LaCroix. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Dr. Brittany, regular agenda items.
Item E is the second reading of Ordinance Amendment 0821-02, Pennington County to amend the zoning ordinance to add Section 324, accessory dwellings, to the Pennington County zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission recommended approval of Ordinance Amendment 0821-02, and the Board of Commissioners approved the first reading of this ordinance amendment on April 20th, 2021, with 2 changes.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Lassiter. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Brittany, I'm going to probably have, maybe I'll just ask them all here.
Okay.
Because your next 2 or 3 are coming up. You know, when the accessory building, I come up with, it's 700 square feet is what it's in the ordinance. And so it's a little less than 28, but if you go 28 by 28, 784 square feet. I'm thinking a garage with an apartment up on top. So normal garage is 28 by 24. That might be get close by usable space. I just, you know, I really see going forward in the future that we're going to see a lot of families on one lot. I mean, people combining incomes, kids and parents combining incomes to buy homes and living in the same area with the price of things are going. And one of the things that when I was looking at these and your next one, I'll ask that on the next question, but the 700 square foot for a garage was throwing me off a little bit. You know, I was thinking if I wanted to put an apartment up on top of a garage for a family member or something along those lines, 700 seems pretty tough when you look at the size of garage you want to put on a property. You see where I'm getting at? I knew a friend of mine who years ago who built a garage with a loft on top of it, and he lived in there while he was building his house, and then eventually sold it. But I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking at, and I'm looking even further in your next ones with mobile homes and so forth. You know, the requirements are 20 by 20 minimum. You know, or are we going to start looking at some of these tiny homes? Just my thoughts. I'm just We got plenty
Is
of
that a
time.
question or just a statement?
It was a statement, but I don't know.
Tiny homes are on the radar for the office, yes. We do want to do some more research to see how other entities have addressed them and some of the challenges that they've looked at. I mean, we've looked at other ordinances, but unless you can look at the ordinances, but we actually really want to be able to contact and get a hold of other planners to see what kind of challenges, kind of issues that have come up with them as far as, on a lot, as mobile home parks, there's different things to look at with that. So that definitely is coming. We are bringing forward quite a bit of ordinance amendments every week, so those are definitely on the radar.
I just wanted to bring that to radar because I read through those other ones and I'm going minimum 20 by 20. Are we trying to minimize it by saying only double wides, this type of thing? And some of these tiny homes are manufactured probably better than some of the manufactured homes that are certified, you know what I'm saying? And we're taxing them. We just went through this with equalization as.
3 park models.
Park models.
So just some of the things I've been thinking about, and I just see us trending that way, so.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
just so I
Roskinek.
understand the occupancy, there's the main house or your accessory building. So the main house, does that have to be owner occupied?
No, no longer. That change was made. It either has to be owner occupied or utilized as a long-term rental.
Okay, and then the accessory building, that can be used 365 days a year, just not as a vacation home rental, but that could also be rented to a family member, or a family member could use it for free, but it's not the 180 days. Okay, that was my question.
No, the ADU can be used as long as it's a long-term rental. The only 2 prohibitions to it are home occupations and vacation home rentals.
Okay.
Further discussion? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Item F is second reading of ordinance amendment OA 21-03, Pennington County to amend section 204I, standards for manufactured homes, modular homes, and site or stick-built homes of the Pennington County zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission recommended approval of ordinance amendment OA 21-03, and the Board of Commissioners approved the first reading of this ordinance amendment on April 20th, 2021.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Lassiter. Further discussion? Any public comments? Back to the commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item G.
Item G is second reading of ordinance amendment OA 21-04 for Pennington County to amend section 304 mobile homes of the Pennington County zoning ordinance. Planning Commission recommended approval of ordinance amendment OA 21-04, and the Board of Commissioners approved the first reading of this ordinance amendment on April 20th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item H.
H is a second reading of ordinance amendment OA 21-05 for Pennington County to amend ordinance 106, public nuisance. The Planning Commission recommended approval of ordinance amendment OA 21-05, and the Board of Commissioners approved the first reading of this ordinance amendment on April 20th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lassiter.
I have a question, actually. On this item, let's see, where is it? It's on section 3L, operation of a motor vehicle, that whole section there. And maybe I just didn't pick up on it when we read it the first time. We can issue a citation if they're driving and operating their cell phone?
Oh, no, that's in the old ordinance. So the new proposed text is on page 6. So we did remove that.
Okay. I was like, maybe I missed something on there. Okay, fair enough. I was
That's
just making
from
sure
the
because I was
old.
like, that's all I have.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Got a motion from Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item I.
Item I is public hearing of major plan unit development amendment, PU 21-07 for Nothing Doing LLC. Danny Davis is the agent to remove the subject property from plan unit development in order to rezone to Ranchette Residential. And Planning Commission recommended to continue major plan unit development amendment, PU 21-07 to the June 15th, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Adcock, second by Commissioner Laster. The reason for postponing?
It has to do with ordinance amendments that are coming up later in this agenda.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item J.
Item J is public hearing of rezone RZ 21-13 for Nothing Doing LLC. Danny Davis is the agent to rezone 30 acres from Plan Unit Development District to Ranchette Residential District. And Planning Commission recommended to continue rezone 21-13 to the June 15th, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting.
So moved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Laster, second by Commissioner LaCroix. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item K.
Move approval, just kidding. I saw both of you up there, so I was like, I'm gonna tease him. Just teasing you two.
Jason Tennyson, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item K is layout plan 21-14 to create lots 23 through 29 in the east half vacated alley adjacent to lots, block 3 of Silver City subdivision. Applicant and landowners are Don and Laura Elliott. Site location is 307 Street in Silver City. As the property sits today, it is vacant of any kind of structures or utilities. That goes for both tax IDs. You can see on the left are the existing lots. Proposed lots are on the right. Access is via Sherman Street. There is no special flood hazard area on the properties. Proposed lots, their description is lots 23 through 29. East half vacated alley adjacent to lots block 3 of Silver City subdivision. It will be 0.91 acres. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. Department of Equalization did come back and comment stating that all these lots need to be combined into one legal description, meaning not 23 through 29. It needs to be like lot Q or lot 3R or whatever, but that is included as a condition of approval. With that, the applicant's request appears to be in harmony with existing lots and current land uses in the area, and staff recommends approval with conditions.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner LaCroix. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Ross Connect. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Cody Stack, Environmental Planner. Item L is vacation plat VP 21-03. It is to vacate notes on plat for Lot 1, Block 2 of Mountain Meadows subdivision. Staff recommends approval of vacation plat VP 21-03 with 2 conditions. When approving a vacation plat, staff looked at the criteria of, is the property zoned appropriately? Yes. Are the subdivision regulation variances required? Yes. Have the required subdivision regulations been obtained? Yes. Does the property require percolation tests and soil profile hole information? Yes. Is the property in the area with poor soils, risks of water contamination? Yes. Is the possibility of high fire danger in the area? Yes. Could vacating notes on the plat impact neighboring properties? Yes. And does the entire subdivision for Mountain Meadows Estate subdivision and Rushmore Ranch Estates have water? No. A little history with this. The Mountain Meadows Estates was platted back in 2008, and notes were put on the plat to note 7 and 9 require that an engineer perform perk tests and profile hole and design the septic system. Since that time, the planning department has put in place 204J, which regulates septics, and we have an environmental planner who goes out and inspects profile holes and reviews percolation tests to see if they correlate with the profile hole. and notes 14 or 13 and 14 that they're requesting to waive, they did obtain a variance to waive the adding water storage. So staff is in favor of vacating those notes. And this was heard in front of the Planning Commission, and they did recommend approval of vacation of plat VP 21-03. Another lot in the area has vacated the same notes on this plat, so staff is recommending approval of vacation plat VP 21-03 with 2 conditions.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Move to approve vacation of plat VP 21-03 with 2 conditions.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Roskinek and a second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item M.
Item N is Ordinance Amendment OA 21-06. It's to amend Section 507I5B of construction permit requirements. Currently, the requirement states that applications of the stormwater permits must notify abutting property owners of the subject property of the pending application on construction activity. Staff is recommending to change that to applicants of stormwater permits must notify all abutting property owners of the subject property pending application of construction permit activity if the disturbance is greater than or equal to 5 acres. Staff has received very few calls from neighboring properties who have received this letter. And most of the calls received are to ask why they received the letter, not anything about the actual project that was going on. This requirement can get onerous on property owners who are doing small projects such as building a house and can hold up their building permit if their contractor doesn't send out those letters. So staff feels that the notice requirement would be better suited for large construction projects or more significant land disturbance. This was heard before the Planning Commission, who recommended approval of Ordinance Amendment OA 21-06, but they did have concerns that 5 acres may be too many. Going from all to 5 or 10,000 square feet to 5 acres could be a little large. So staff has talked, and if the board so chooses, staff would be willing to go down to 3 acres.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner LaCroix. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We tried to get through the whole alphabet today.
I see.
Move approval. Come on, Brittany.
So item N is the first reading and public hearing of Ordinance Amendment OA 21-07 for Pennington County to amend Section 202, the official zoning map of the zoning ordinance. The reason for this is to incorporate the official current zoning map and incorporate language regarding planned unit development zoning into Section 202.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lassiter, second by Commissioner LaCroix to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, opposed? Motion approved.
And item O is public hearing of comprehensive plan amendment CA 21-07, approval by resolution for Pennington County to amend the existing comprehensive plan view to 2040, section 3.1, land use designations and standards, and land use description plan unit development, and to add section 3, land use and housing element figure 3-2, the official zoning map, to page 316. Planning Commission did recommend approval of comprehensive plan CA 21-07.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner LaCroix, second by Commissioner Lassiter to approve. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Holly Hennies, you're up.
Commissioners, this is the agenda item, time for the board to start considering any proposed resolutions to move forward for the Black Hills District Association of County Commissioners and Officials that would move forward to the state association. So no action is required today, just time for the board to start discussions on if there's any anything that you want to move forward for changes through legislature.
I think, Holly, in the past, we've had legislation introduced relative to an income tax for, or I'm sorry, not income tax, sales tax for counties for infrastructure needs.
Yes, sir.
And I think the county should be thinking about taking a position on that, because I'm sure that that will be a bill that will return to the legislature. And then, since we have Brittany and Jason here, is there anything that we need to be looking at the state level relative to planning and zoning cleanup legislation and statutes? And I throw that out there, if there is something that we may want to take action on as far as at the local level.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I totally agree with you on that. Maybe we need to reach out to other departments to have them see if they got something to just communicate.
It's much easier to, if we bring it through our Black Hills district to the county organization, than it is trying to create these at the last second and then finding sponsors for those bills. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea to ask the departments if there's things that they would like to have brought forward or at least discussed at this point in time. And the next meeting for the Black Hills District is
Next Friday, May 14th.
May 14th.
And then we go to July 14th, July 16th.
Okay, okay.
And I just wanted to mention that it's at Prairie Winds.
It is. We are going to Oglala, Lakota
Oglala.
County next Friday.
And they're offering a tour of the Justice Center at 3 o'clock.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you've never been to the Justice Center out there, it's kind of a neat thing to see.
Okay.
Yes, I will reach out to the other departments and report back at the next meeting. Item B, Commissioners, in front of you is to schedule some public board meetings to consider a temporary ordinance regarding the issuance of local medical cannabis establishment permits and licensings. The Planning Commission has scheduled an emergency meeting on Monday, May 17th, and will also hold their regular meeting on the 24th, at which time this will also be an agenda item. But we need to schedule board meetings to consider that temporary ordinance. You have a couple of options in front of you. Depends on what direction the board wants to go.
I lost my paper.
Mr. Chairman, just out of curiosity, if I've got it on my calendar correctly, June 2nd, we're already having that budget work section. Is it something, if we had this on that same day, or if it worked out that way, would we still be able to do that, or would we have to move it to a different day?
No, I certainly put that down as an option. I don't know quite how long our budget work session will go. If you wanted to schedule something in the afternoon, we feel that there will be some public comments and that we wanted to allow ample time to address that. So we could certainly schedule something that afternoon, if that's the board's wish, since you're already doing commission business that morning.
Since we're already here, I think maybe it would be a good idea. The only problem is if that work session goes longer, then we'd have to stop that to have our actual meeting and then go back to the work session if we set it at a certain time.
Quite possibly, yes, sir.
So are you suggesting anything in particular there, Commissioner Lassiter? Or?
I'm just trying to factor out the other day so I can do that. And I think I do like the second. I mean, I can fit the second in there if we're already going to be here on the second, and the fourth is pretty good. So I would maybe recommend, if everybody else can do it, the second, and then maybe the follow-up is the June 15th, since we're already here on the 15th as well.
Holly, how long does our budget sessions usually last? work sessions. I
These are
can't
the first
remember.
readings. They could be long on these. I mean, you can.
Yeah, my concern, well, the planning commission is your technical board, so we would want as much public interaction and public comment to be done during the planning commission meetings as possible. Our budget work session, I'm just gonna estimate 8:30 to 1. We could possibly schedule for 2 o'clock that afternoon on the 2nd. The June 15th commission meeting, you know, you never know what the agenda is going to look like and how much public comment would be involved for the second and final reading of what that ordinance would be. So that could turn into a longer commission meeting, but you're already here. So it's up to the board. We just need some direction so we can get the advertisements done properly.
Chairman?
What?
I like those dates that you said. You're talking following our regular commission meeting and set it up.
So we would do Wednesday, June 2nd at 2 p.m. And we could just combine it with the regular June 15th commission agenda. So I would just call a special meeting on the 2nd. If that's the board's wish, we would ask for a motion for that.
If the board is interested in that, I would make that motion.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Lassiter, second by Commissioner LaCroix. Need the motion repeated? Got the dates? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, commissioners.
Items from commission members. These are not your committee reports. These are other items. Commissioner Lassiter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. So I sent some information to the commission concerning, I got a couple of issues to talk about. But the first I'll talk about is the amendment to the PUC for Black Hills Energy. I don't know if y'all got a chance to review that email. Just if you didn't, I talked to both Black Hills Energy's Mark Erie, the Vice President of Operations, and asked him to explain to me how he saw this was going to impact. And then I also reached out to some of our community businesses that deal with alternative energy, such as GenPro and that, and kind of got both sides of it. And then, of course, I looked at individuals who have these systems and kind of review documents to see how it would impact them overall. I sent a letter in opposition from myself to the PUC, because you can do public comment. It's all on the public website. You can do that. There's a process for it. You have to make sure you give all your contact information. You have to put your contact info, and it's all public knowledge what you're saying on there. My biggest concern with this is, and it may impact our economic development with small distribution systems, is that the way I understood it, and Mark agreed that I'm understanding it right. Right now, people who have these systems on their home, they are, let's say they're generating energy and they're utilizing most of that energy, so they don't have to buy 5 kilowatts, so they're not paying 7 cents or 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Anything extra, they're selling it back at wholesale. This would actually take that away, where they have to sell it all to the company first and then buy it back to use it. So that's just kind of my overview, and I got that from not only from Black Hills Energy, but also from the GenPro and the others. So I don't know if we want to take a position on it, if we are encouraging of it, or if we just want to wait and see how the hearing process goes. But I think the PUC is the final on it as well. So it may impact businesses, or it may impact individuals who want to start businesses in the area. It also has a deadline of 2041. So places that already have solar power or wind power right now, at that point in time, if they're connected to their grid, they would actually then no longer be able to produce first and use it. Would then, they have to sell their energy to the power company to then buy it back.
The Commissioner, of the hearing date's been set for that?
I did not see a hearing date on it yet. I don't know. I've just seen the thread for all of the comments so far. And several individuals have already got on there, specifically some of the companies that are in that business of doing renewable energy.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
I'd ask for the Black Hills Energy to come do a presentation for the
Absolutely.
board so we have some public that can see it. Number two, I know Biden is giving all kinds of, benefits to companies and for alternative energy. So they're looking ahead, I understand, but I'm not in agreement with that. I mean, I need to know information, but just from listening to Travis and visiting with him before, I know they're going towards or trying to get towards alternative energy because, that's going to be the future. They can get more grants, they can get more subsidized, whatever, by doing alternative energy. But I'd like to see how it impacts the small, the houses in the area because we're the county. So it's a lot different than the city. So I'd like to see how our constituents and the businesses are impacted and basically how many business or homeowners are using this alternative energy that would be impacted. So
Holly, would you reach out to Black Hills Energy and invite them to come and make a presentation to us in regard to that?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Please continue, Commissioner Laster.
Yes, sir. The other thing is, during the Board of Equalization, I said I was interested in looking into some information about the PFAS, PFOA contamination within the county. I'm still collecting information on that. One of the pieces of information is coming from the EPA, from the Air Force. The Air Force has requested a 2-week extension to answering the EPA's letter, so we don't have any of that information at this moment in time. And the county did send out a letter into the community to those that we knew, the properties that we knew that were impacted by this. And I did some follow-up research on that. And then this morning, I also visited with the Department of Equalization, Don and Dan, on some of these properties, and we kind of walked through the impact and what they did and the numbers on that. So right now, I don't have a full presentation for you. I just want to let you know that I'm still collecting information. I made sure that, Holly, we got you one of the books that I came across information. So if you don't mind keeping a hold of that for the next time whenever I get the final amounts of information, then I can give you an overall presentation on what I have found and then maybe make some recommendations at that point in time.
So Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
So are you trying to change anybody's assessment this year and isn't there a deadline or are you looking at changing assessments through this?
Right now, I don't want to say I am or not. I don't think I have enough information to change assessments at this moment in time. But I think moving forward, it might be something, and as Don and Dan and I talked about, it might be setting a benchmark for future instances. If there's contamination, what the county should be looking for and how to look at it so so it doesn't seem like there might be, one person's getting this, one person's getting that. It looks like it's uniformity for all of them that are impacted by it. So that was one of the discussions I had with the Department of Equalization this morning.
Thank you.
Anything
Travis.
further, Commissioner Laster?
Not on those items.
Commissioner LaCroix? Nothing?
We're not to committee reports, right?
No, we're not at committee reports. No. So I think all of us probably received a number of communications relative to thanking us for different things, support for Ellsworth Air Force Base, for Box Elder, so forth. The Wall Community Library, we got a letter from just thanking us for our continued consideration for them. The one I want to point out is I did get, a couple weeks ago, I made note that we had received a public notice from the South Dakota Board on Geographic Names, asking us if we were interested to submit a name at the South Dakota Mines campus. They've withdrawn that. So if you've been thinking about something, you can quit thinking about it. Yeah.
Darn it.
So, other than, maybe no, I think that's all I have for.
Meeting this morning, Gary, maybe? Somewhat of an
Oh,
update?
yeah. Okay. So this morning, NACO, the National Association of Counties, did basically a webinar with South Dakota counties talking about what's coming up as far as the dollars that have been set aside now through the American, what's it called? American Families?
American Recovery
American
Program,
Recovery
AP.
Plan, yeah. And so we know and have known that the dollar amount for Pennington County is set out to be probably a little bit more than 22 million. The Department of Treasury is still not established exactly what that criteria is going to be. So even though we're thinking about how it may be used as far as infrastructure and so forth, we can't really do anything until we get that final criteria to determine just exactly what we can be looking at in regard to it. We know that there's probably some COVID dollars that can be just like we had before that can be utilized for some salaries, et cetera, that was additional cost to us. As to how else we may be able to use that, we don't really know at this point in time. So it's still a little sketchy. Obviously, NACO is trying to make some projections, thinking here's some areas that would be nice to use. Again, they have no authority on it. They've exerted their powers, their voice with NACO, with the Department of Treasury, and with the makers of the bill in Washington to try to encourage them to give consideration to various areas and counties, one of those being roads and bridges, and that basically kind of fell on deaf ears. So we know that it probably won't be able to be used for that purpose. So we're still waiting. Department of Treasury has kind of indicated that maybe within the next 10 days they'll have that criteria out. I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully we'll get it fairly soon. Commissioner Roskinek.
Sure. I asked Holly to print out some documentation. This is the way I'm going to do it in the future. A lot of this, I don't have to report over the microphone, but I have names and emails, telephone numbers that you can reference the material that Holly printed out for future reference. One of the things that Gary and I have been doing is we've been talking to Anna Hayes and Matt Bruner with the Elevate Rapid City, who would like to see the county participate in the discretionary tax formula. I put together an example. That's just, I'm not going to go over it in detail, but this is basically what they're trying to do is create this as an incentive for new construction relative to commercial and industrial. So you've got what I'm going to probably do is get together with Gary and see if we can have Anna and Matt come here, put them on the agenda, and then let them explain why they think that this is something that we should be looking at in the future. I meet with Jim Lyman and Rushmore Forest Products on May 6th. It'll be a follow-up meeting that we did last month to see how we want to go forward with the Rushmore Forest Products sawmill in Hill City. I attended the swearing in of correctional officers with the Honorable Judge Heidi Lindgren presiding. That was last Thursday. And then also prior to that, I attended I call it the Ogallala Sioux Tribal Council meeting, where we had 4 tribal members from the OST there present, along with the sheriff and others, to try to see how we can move forward with our care campus facility in Rapid City and the reservation to solve substance abuse, enhance living conditions, and job placement. So in a nutshell, those are my...
Thank you, Ron. Commissioner Adcock.
Yes, I attended the city council meeting last night. We've been working with the city, with the sheriff, with Miss Hawley, with some of the business owners, with the downtown, to try to figure out, to try to nip in the butt a lot of the panhandling that's been going on. It's unconstitutional to limit panhandling, but our message isn't to say they can't panhandle in the city or the county. It's to bring awareness that there's other entities to help people besides the public giving money to people that are panhandling. That's our bottom line, if I'm correct, Ms. Hawley. So we worked with the sheriff, me and Tracy Delker and Ms. Hawley, and We couldn't do an ordinance, and why we didn't need the ordinance. It's not that we couldn't do it. We could do an ordinance, but we basically cover everything that's in the nuisance ordinance in Pennington County already. So we thought we'd do a resolution basically saying that we'd like to inform the general public that we have the care campus and other facilities to put those monies instead of giving them to panhandlers. We have resources to help the people that they are not helping by giving money to. So with the city, we are going to start doing some signs, and we're just kind of coming up with those signs that we put in the city. And in the county, we'd put it basically on county facilities like the care campus area, this building, see if the fairgrounds would be willing to put some signs there. The sheriff would be willing to pay for 25 signs, it sounds like, and then the city 25 signs, and then decide later if we need more signs or that kind of thing. But bottom line is it's becoming a public nuisance with people being intoxicated and people getting really scared now because it's getting more and more intense because we need to do something different. So again, that's our bottom line. Let's see if we can get to the public so they're not handing out money to people that need care in our facilities and other entities in Rapid City and Pennington County.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Commissioner Hickok. So this weekend, there was a convention in town at the Civic Center, and there was 38 different states, individuals here from 38 different states, and some of them, and I got to talk, and a lot of them were asking about the homeless population because they would go from the Civic Center, walk into town to go visit the eateries at lunchtime and at dinner time. So, I mean, we had 38 states that came into people from 38 states that came into our community, and that was their question to the people of the community. How come there's this large influx of homeless people here? So I don't know if the Civic Center is a good place to put some of those signs as well, just what you were talking about. So it might be something we had a couple of police officers that were picking individuals up off of the ground while we had all these individuals here visiting our wonderful town. So
we haven't really figured out the cause. I know influx lately is, and I don't know if you guys knew that, as of May 1st, and that was the word. I don't know if Gary had any word on it. They closed the trust land up there, and there was like at least 60 individuals. So I've noticed an influx a little bit more of around my facilities. So I wish there was something else we can do, but this is the start of something that we can do that individuals that need some help. So that's the bottom line. How do we help? How do we start that help in showing that we still care, but the public needs to help us in that care in order to make a difference. If the people cannot get help and you keep giving them money and they're not going to our facilities or other facilities, they're not getting the care they need, and we're not helping anybody. We want people to be well. We want people to see if we could make a difference, and we're not doing that by giving money. So, unfortunately, I don't know if anybody else knows why the influx is more than ever, but it's really getting worse and worse.
Okay, committee reports, and we'll reverse the order. Start with you, Commissioner Hadcock.
Okay, so also there was a presentation last night by Brian Ochbach at the City Council. We asked if he would go there and give them some of the things we do in our Pennington County Housing Authority. I thought there'd be more questions because they are looking at affordable housing or subsidized housing. And who better to do it than an entity in Pennington County or Rapid City that we've been doing in Wall, New Underwood, the surrounding area. We also could get tax credits, it sounds like, in some other different areas. Plus, if the city's going to give money, why not give the money to an area that actually already does it? And to an entity, I keep saying, that won't sell out those properties later and misplace people. So that's my biggest concern with going with other companies or other states with doing companies for subsidized housing. We already do it best. We've done it for many years, since 1972, as the report was. So I think it's a great idea, is if we can move forward and try to get the community support on helping us move forward on some of that subsidized housing if that's where they want to go. The rents are awesome. Some are like in scattered, public housing, and then the other entities were for disabled, veterans, which we are working on, trying to get more areas for veterans, and then elderly. So again, Brian Ochbach's working on that in our commission. Commissioner Ross connects on there as well. And then we did some of our budgeting that we got done, and just getting us all familiar. And we were going to get some training in the different areas so we all know where those areas are in Rapid City, where there's areas that we can build on. I mean, just an exciting time for Pennington County housing. And that's not just from me, that's from Brian and some of the other entities that work with us. So hopefully we can get something going. On the building committee, I'll have Ross Connect, Commissioner Ross Connect, give that update if he'd like.
Ross Connect's fine. Building committee, we're moving forward with replacing the roof on stall barn number 4. I told Mike that was we wanted to get that done sooner than better, keeping in mind that there's a $25,000 insurance deductible. Jail study is in progress, and now we're looking at an estimated cost, could be $10 to $15 million, as this involves a complex project that will have to be staged and require relocating clients during the project. And, you know, I don't know yet, but when we get some of this COVID relief money, we don't know that there might be a possibility that some of that money could be used for infrastructure, but that's yet to be seen. There have been 3 interviews for project manager, one that was interviewed from Oregon. The building committee agreed to convert the lamplighter property into a parking area. Vandalism has taken place and is only expected to get worse. This request will go in front of the commission for approval, which we did today. The use as a landscape parking area will align well with the new elements and property meld housing developments taking place on St. Joe. And in your handout, there was a bid for $314,400, and I'll just let you have that for your files. Black Hills Council of Local Government, seeing me and Gary attended that with Jennifer. How do you pronounce your last name, Gary? Sietsma?
Now I've got to think of the spelling of it.
Okay, so she's our executive director, and then Randy Dybert, he's a commissioner up in Lawrence County. He's the chairperson.
Sietsma.
So we had a good discussion on the American Recovery Plan and how counties can proceed going forward with an understanding how those funds can be utilized. We also discussed the OHV-related issues, or ATVs, and the communities that have been formed, or the committees that have been formed. There's an action committee and a steering committee that have been formed by the U.S. Forest Service. Discussion around what role Black Hills Council of Local Governments can assist in that process. The U.S. Forest Service is currently taking the lead with private enterprise. Also did an overview of the American Rescue Plan, H.R. 1319, and an overview of House Bill 1256, rural infrastructure. And then there's discussions on updating what they call the Black Hills Council of Local Governments Joint Cooperative Agreement. That I don't think anybody's read that for a long time. Some people are starting to read it. The different articles would be the parties, purpose, formation of legal entity, governing council, delegation of authority, duration, financing, cooperation from member public agencies, implementation of plans and or studies, withdrawal from membership, reinstatement of membership termination, compliance with laws, amendments, and the effective date. Black Hills Council of Local Government received roughly $30,000 for reimbursement of duplicate rents. And looks like we're going to have favorable rents going forward. And that's a pretty good chunk of money, but a little bit of research, they found out that over the years they were paying duplicate rents. And so $30,000 reimbursement was a nice thing to happen. Pennington County Housing and Redevelopment. We met with Black Hills Works, and we moved to terminate the lease at 701 Mallow Street, apartments 201 through 205, at the request of Black Hills Works Foundation, who agreed to pay monthly rents on the units until such time that they can be released up to a 6-month period. Although there were 18 months left on the lease, Black Hills Works Foundation agreed to pay 6 months or at $22,440 a month. This agreement benefits both grounds, whereby Pennington County Housing Redevelopment does not have to receive duplicate rents. And the reason for the termination is that because they had 4 clients that did not feel safe in those apartments. And so they are moved out. And then Black Hills Works said, well, we'll just, even though there's nobody in them, we'll go another 6 months and pay you $2,440 a month. But we'd like to get out of the last year. But what we agreed to do is, if there's nobody in them, we'll get them filled. And if we get them filled, you don't have to pay us. We don't want duplicate rents. So it worked out good for everybody. Then we approved the 2021 5-year plan proposed capital fund program, which roughly $1,294,000 is put away annually for capital expenses in the future. And then we met the Jonathan McCoy with Costello Porter, who's going to be our new staff legal representative. Jonathan replaces Frank Bettman, who went to Black Hills Federal Credit Union. Long-range planning includes addressing the 25 scattered housing units and the financial feasibility of selling some of those and using those funds to develop clusters of multifamily units, which can require less management, maintenance, insurance, and utility costs. I mean, this isn't going to happen overnight, but we think this is time to start going that direction, because that's how I kind of got involved with this. So scattered housing, they're hard to maintain, and they didn't always work in some neighborhoods. Pennington County Planning Commission, Kathy Johnson does not plan to run for another term, and I think there might be two others up. And all these ordinance amendments and conditional use amendments, we already hashed those over pretty good today, so that's all I have.
Okay, just a couple of things that are on my sheet. One is the Black Hills Military Advisory Coalition. They actually have 4 different committees, 4 pillars, and I'm part of the defense one. And I did do a report on that 2 weeks ago. So this may show up on mine, but I'm not attending all 4 of those various committees. But there's opening spots if anybody else would like to be a part of some of those. But it's a very active group overall. Central States Fair, we not only had our regular board meeting, but we also had a retreat last week for a couple days. Talked about the future of Central States Fair. The good problem is that we have very few open dates for additional events. The bad problem is we have very few open dates for additional events. It's a well-used facility, and it's basically for next year for weekends, it's booked out except for the weekend or Christmas. And I think the other buildings are in use like 143 days with 64 different events. So it's heavily used. We had some good discussions though as to how we may try to improve in the future. And I'm going to be bringing back some additional ideas as to where we can fit into that. I do look at that as being our effort for building commerce for the county. And so I think our efforts need to be put there toward that for some good discussion.
Well, Gary, looks like because of all their buildings and everything, do we need to invest in some capital improvements on some of that stuff? Because I know they needed some updates. I went to like the big rummage sales and different stuff and was looking at some of the areas that might need to be updated. Just for reference, I don't know if they've been looking at those, but I think there's some capital improvement needs that maybe we need to look at for budget this year.
They do, and they will be bringing those forward to us.
Yeah, just from looking at the facilities and being inside that building, it looks like we need to do a little updating.
Yep, agreed.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
Commissioner LaCroix. One chance.
One chance. That's it. Well, first of all, I need to express my appreciation and Pam's appreciation for the cards that the commissioner sent to her and administration building. She got that just the other day. So I wanted to pass that on because she's been gone for a week.
Nice.
Clearing out her mom's house, and she just come back and had that letter. So that was very nice of you guys. Appreciate that.
We can't wait for her to get back to clean you up.
She did, but I'm leaving again this Friday. We're leaving for the funeral next Friday. So, yeah, she takes care of me. She's the warden. But committee reports, I've got on your healthcare trust board. I think what we did is a teleconference quick, and we had there's some discussion on some of the fees, maybe getting some of the money back from the COVID funding to help keep the cost low for our rates and so forth, but nothing's been set. It's just kind of a little bit of talk. And we had another person who had made a mistake on their enrollment, and so we took care of that. That's pretty much what I can tell you on that. We extended the telehealth and some of those costs that we went through a couple weeks ago. Going right into the health trust board for the community health, we did the same thing. It was just pretty much basic, going over the budget. They talked more about their dental, needing more funding for their dental than anything else. They got a lot of people coming in, but they can just do the basics. They can't do the crowns and doing some of the basic stuff. So that was some of the discussion there. And then they're starting to open up. I think it was this week, is they're going to be opening up their satellite office over here at the care campus. They've got a place set up. They're going to work on getting that going. And they're getting referrals from One Heart, and so they're starting to everything's starting to coincide together, and they're working together. But that's pretty much my report on those. I did attend some different ones. You guys, I'm on the YFS board. I attend 2 of those meetings. I'm also on the collective healing board. We met with the police department last Saturday for 5 hours. At 5 or 6 hours, we had a discussion on training for the police officers and some collective healing type stuff. We're working through it. I had everybody printed out a copy of some of the stuff that they're working on. That's going really good. We got a good core group, and we're working together on some recommendations and some training for the officers and the community. So that's still moving forward. With that, I'll pass.
Commissioner Lassiter.
The only one for me is the Community Health Board. He was there too, and he just gave you that briefing. So that was my only one for this last time.
Very good. We'll always go in this direction, and it gets shorter now. I need a motion to approve the vouchers. I've got one here for $200 for the Rose Inn LLC, in which Commissioner Adcock wishes to abstain. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Lassiter. Is there a second? And a second by Commissioner LaCroix. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, motion carried. Now I need a motion to approve the remaining vouchers totaling $1,027,797, or $797. I better start over. $1,027,797.03.
So move.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner LaCroix, second by Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Gary, did you say 1,277,797?
1,027,000 $797.03.
There you go.
4471.
Gosh. Any items from the public? Brooks, do you want to make any comments?
How's your first
I
meeting,
presume
Brooks?
everybody's had the opportunity to meet Brooks.
I haven't yet.
Oh, really?
Come up, Brooks.
What?
Let's see what you think about this commission meeting.
So, Brooks Euchre, welcome to the staff. Welcome to the team. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm happy to be doing what I can to help Holly and everyone else in the commission office.
Sounds good.
I got your back, man.
Thank you very much. Yep, welcome. Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I'd just like to report
What
that
number?
via, through April, we've generated $512,819 towards our bridge fund goal of $1,300,000. So we're just a little under halfway there.
And we've only got 4 months, we've already into it 4 months.
Then we got the good months coming down the pipeline.
I just paid my
Good.
wheel tax, or licensed my vehicle.
We appreciate it.
Move to go into executive session.
I've got a motion. Is there a second to go into executive session? And a second from Commissioner Hadcock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
On the mic. Move to come out of executive session.
I've got a motion and a second. Come out of executive session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'll take a motion for adjournment. I don't
Move to
think we have
adjourn.
any action.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.